WCW Uncensored, 1997. It's uncensored. Lot to get into. There's title matches, cruiserweights, tag teams. It's uncensored. Got the main event, Team Piper versus Team WCW versus Team NWO. It's uncensored. Glacier's here. It's uncensored. Mortis is here. It's uncensored. Hell, even DDP's wife's tits are here. It's censored. But most importantly, you're here. So why don't you sit on down, take your socks off, and give them to me so that I can add them to my collection. I mean, what? It's the Apron Bump Podcast.
It's the hardest. Talk around and disregard it. Strip you off the ground, show you what hard is. Standing strong and proud, nothing can knock this. Let's get it started.
What is up, everybody? How we doing? Howdy, howdy, howdy. Welcome to the Apron Bump Podcast. I am your host, the hardest part of the ring, Kyle. Hope everybody's doing well out there. Hope everybody's enjoying their holiday season. Huh? Don't eat too much on Thanksgiving. Oh man, I know we can't help it. We can't help it. Oh, sorry. We're getting too crazy. We're getting too crazy. What the heck? Well, anyway, Uncensored 1997, provided to us by the WCW. Pretty good show. A lot of good on this show. A lot of not so good on. Well, not a lot of not so good stuff on this show. There are some bad stuff. That's not English, Kyle. But you know what I mean. It's WCW. It's a lot of fun, whether it's good or bad. There is a lot to talk about, hence why this is a longer than usual episode. So I'm going to keep this intro short and sweet. But before I do that, let me give a big old juicy shout out to my guest, Juice Springsteen from the Juicebox Wrestling Podcast. Returning to the show, always a hoot and a nanny. A hoot and nanny? Hoot and nanny? It's a fun time, as always, with my boy Juice. Go check out the Juicebox Podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts. He talks a lot about the current product in wrestling, but also gets into all of the facets of wrestling, which you will hear as of this episode dropping. You'll hear it the next day, November 21st, when he drops his episode, which may or may not have a guest that is a pretty turgid portion of a ring. It's me. I'm on his podcast. We have a good old time talking about that. So check that out after you check this out. He's a good boy, a very entertaining podcast. Great follow on social media also, especially if you're a fan of WCW. This dude, I mean, he has all the merch. He's constantly posting clips and just little deep cut stuff from WCW. But just in general, he's a good follow. So go check him out. I'll put all of his socials in the description below. Like I said, check out the Juicebox Podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. And follow me at Apron Bump on all the social medias. I started a Blue Sky because it seems like that's what everybody's doing. I feel like everybody's just going to come back to Twitter eventually. But I'm there as well at Apron Bump if you want to follow me there. And of course, all the usuals do that. With that, let's get into it, baby. It's a fun one. All the stars are here. The cruiserweights. Mortis versus Glacier is awesome. Buff Bagwell versus Scotty Riggs, not so much, but crazy main event, crazy finish to the show, title matches all over the place. So let's get to it, shall we? WCW Uncensored, 1990s. Oh, hold on. I almost settle down. Easy, big fella. I getting way ahead of myself. I forgot to mention that you need to stay tuned to the end of the podcast because the hardest promotion battle of 1997 continues. WCW versus WWF versus ECW. We pit each of these companies together at this point in time. So as of March 16th, 1997, we see which company is doing the best, the worst, and this is all based off of pay-per-view quality, in-ring quality, out-of-ring quality, all of this stuff. We look at the best and the worst that each company is providing us at this point in 97. and we're working our way towards the end of the year. And whoever has the highest score at the end of the year will earn a purchase. From the hardest part of the ring, I will purchase another championship belt of that respective company, as you see behind me. The old Intercontinental title, WWF won in 1996. Who will win in 1997? I believe, let me double check. ECW is currently in the lead, WCW in second, WWF in last, but a lot can change very quickly. So stay tuned for that. All right. With that, now let's get into it, baby. WWF? Nope, that's not the company. WCW. It's uncensored, everybody. It's uncensored. 1997, right? Let me try this one more again. WCW Uncensored, 1997, with myself and Juice Springsteen from the Juice Box Podcast.
I just love watching these shows, and I feel like maybe it's too early to call this, but throughout the different people I've worked with on my show and then coming on their shows, I feel like I look forward to yours the most.
Oh, I appreciate that, man. Appreciate that.
I don't know. I just feel like the banter is very easy. Like it's
not
very
too.
casual.
I try to wrestling is silly at the end of the day. So like, if you're not having fun with it, like, why not? Why
men rolling around in their underwear?
It really is. I mean, just the concept. I mean, you look at Lex Luger and how wet he is. It's like, why are you so wet? Do you have to be that wet?
I think I have in here Shiny Luger.
I mean, he's as shiny as. Who do you think is the wettest wrestler of all time?
Oh my God.
Ahmed Johnson, maybe.
Ahmed was shiny. I always think of like Kevin Nash would pour water on his head. Edge too.
Who I was just watching something where he was like literally dripping. Mark Henry Mark Henry was pretty wet.
Oh my God, Mark Henry. I remember him doing the water bottle thing before he came out. I mean, Triple H.
Yeah.
Triple H was glistening. Well, of course it was by design, but
WrestleMania 18, it's like
he had to show the vascularity.
Yeah, I guess.
WrestleMania 18, they're doing the first time at the Rogers Center with Elimination Chamber.
Hell yeah, you going?
How about that? No.
You're closer than I am, I think, right?
True.
Ohio, right?
No, PA.
PA. That's the same thing, right?
Yeah, they're neighbors.
Yeah. It's all the same for me. But yeah, man, glad to have you. Always a hoot having you on, especially talking WCW. So you requested this one specifically. Uncensored. It's uncensored.
I'm going to be saying that. I'm just going to put a disclaimer out there. Any certain point, if we hit a lull or if we hit a great moment,
right?
It's uncensored, Tony.
That's a good break if needed type of thing. Yeah, I love it.
I did request this show. Yeah.
What about this show just gets to your cockles so much?
A lot. First of all, special occasion. Here it is.
Woo! I like it. Is that from this year specifically, or is it just like a general?
Yeah. No, this is Uncensored 97. You can't really see it in there, but it has on the marquee the dates. But
nice,
if you notice I think Bill Apter was out there, but some of the camera guys, this design was on the back of their shirt. So I assume they had like a crew thing here. But this is the one that they gave out to fans because I clearly was there. But but yeah, this show, for some, I just vividly remember the hype to this. I remember, so I was, 4, just turned 4. So I don't really have too many memories. But as I was growing up, I do recall, my parents had recorded certain pay-per-views on VHS, and I'd always like run through them and like watch them again. And I remember this one specifically was on there. And I remember always being intrigued by that 3-team main event with all these stipulations. We'll get to that, how it took Michael Buffer 58 minutes to round 16.
Oh, fuck Michael. Have I talked about Michael Buffer with you yet and how he stinks?
I don't think so.
I hate Michael Buffer, dude.
Okay.
He wasn't.
That's a hot take to me.
He was fine on this show, but he'll always be like, say it's like Hulk Hogan in '96. He'd be like, this man in the red corner with the yellow tights and red trim, he calls himself he says eat your vitamins. He just goes on and on about all these useless facts about everybody that's involved. He didn't have time to do it here, thankfully, but
he had all those rules.
He bugs me.
The only thing that I liked him. I liked that WCW ponied up the money. They didn't have Howard Finkel. They did not have. They had Gary Michael Capetta and they had David Penzer, who I really like both those guys, and they all have their unique voices.
Right.
I think Justin Roberts is kind of a David Penzer-esque guy, but I think David Penzer did some TNA, but they didn't have a Howard Finkel. So they had the money. Bischoff had the money. Turner had the money. If they're going to pony up that type of cash, Clash of the Champions main events, pay-per-view main events, let's get him now. And it gives it legitimacy because he was a boxing announcer.
Right.
I do recall two specific blunders over the years. Instead of Hulkamania, the King of Hulkmania, he would like that, and then he would also. I think the famous one is Bret Hitman Clark. So
maybe you're
not always the best. No. We did see him on this show. I can't wait to talk about the Mortal Kombat guys.
Oh man,
that's right. What about Bruce Buffer? If you had to pick one Buffer, do you like the UFC Buffer or the wrestling Buffer?
I'm more Bruce than Michael. Generally, I like Bruce. It's time. Like I like the Ready to Rumble, but I don't know. I feel like It's Time is just more. I don't know. I think it stands the test of time. Pardon the pun, but
I like both because it's like more dignity and like elevated sense with Michael Buffer with like and then with It's Time, it's ruthless aggression. It's that UFC. We're gonna kick the shit out of each other.
And then he starts.
It's perfect.
He starts announcing their names and he like gets in their face.
Yeah,
Bones Jones. He like gets right in there. It's
hey, he's fighting next week. MSG.
Yeah. I haven't watched UFC in a few years, and I like panicked. I was like, who is one UFC fighter? I almost couldn't think of one.
It's crazy. I don't really watch. I used to watch them periodically back in like the pay-per-view days, like when it was one a month.
Yes.
Now that there's 50 a week, it's tough. But funny enough, next week I'm actually going to see the show. It's for another event that I'm going to be at, but UFC's going to be on there. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I realized John Jones is fighting in the main event. It's Madison Square Garden. It's a pretty big show.
Stipe, right? He's fighting.
So, yeah, Stipe.
Yeah. So I mean, he's as mainstream as they have, I feel like. So other than like Connor, but that'll be a good one. God. I mean, I always love watching UFC when it's on, but is he done, Connor? Is he on his fifth retirement now?
He just he's like Terry Funk. No, he just drinks too much. I think he's just like cooked. He's done like doing that. I think he's made his money. He's a celebrity forever. Right. I don't think he needs to do it. I think he knows that, which is unfortunate because UFC could use some star power.
Yeah. I mean, they have like a lot of good fighters. It's just, to your point, the star power. And to me, I think too many people try to be Connor. Like they bring that pro wrestling kind of element to it, which you got to admire them for trying, but not everybody's good at it. So
not everybody has that legitimate just charisma out the gate. It's not there for everybody.
Right. Yeah. Can't all be that dude Piper tried to recruit for his team, but we'll talk about that.
Oh, I'm glad they didn't show up. Good Lord. I forgot all about that. And then they were like, yeah, well, and I looked up the thing. I was like, John Tenta was supposed to be in, and then two random guys too.
You know what?
I'm so glad it wasn't them.
Let's talk about this right now. Because I need to like, So the main event of this show, it's like you mentioned, it's 4-on-4-on-4, right? It's 4, or well, it's supposed to be.
Technically, because Rick Steiner got waylaid backstage. Face down. It looks like he was dead.
Well, that
he didn't move.
I have so many thoughts on so many things that happened on this show. But,
I know.
It was supposed to be 4-on-4-on-4, Team Piper versus Team WCW versus Team NWO. Building up to this show on Nitro, which I'm assuming you've seen this segment, Roddy Piper held tryouts for people to be on his team. And they were literally just random guys, one of which was Luther Reigns. I don't know if you remember that.
I remember that, but I didn't. You just brought it back to my attention now. I completely forgot that he was one of the guys.
Yeah, I mean, I literally just watched this like a week ago. I was like, "What's that fucking Luther Reigns? How old is this guy?" But it's just guys in jeans, nameless guys coming out and brawling with Piper, and then you got a guy who's like a boxer, I guess. He like puts on gloves, and then Piper finds some gloves, and he puts it. Then they like have a shitty boxing match. And then Piper's like, you're on my team, I guess. And then like a martial artist, taekwondo guy or whatever comes out and they spar and Piper's like, yeah, I like your moxie, kid. And then John Tenta comes out. What are we doing? So what were your like memories of like this hodgepodge team that Piper was trying to put together?
I only recall that it was like a week, and then they just were like, this is not working at all. I don't know whether it was stupid. This is not working for me, brother, or whatever. But it was clear that maybe star power was, I don't know, lacking, for lack of a better term there.
Yeah.
John Tenta, he had all these incarnations as he came in. He first came in as Avalanche in WCW. Then he was Shark. Mm-hmm. And then Bubber shaved his head. I got so many Dusty Rhodes quotes on this thing. Shaves his head, and he's like, I'm not a shark. And he was just John Tenta. And that was just it. But I don't know if he had really wrestled as much in 97. Like the last thing I remember him doing was Bash the Beach 96, where, the NWO formed, but the Carson City Silver Dollar on a pole match happened.
Who could forget with the 50-foot pole that these big bastards have to shimmy up somehow.
It was the craziest pole in the history of pole matches. Russo would have been thrilled to have an opportunity to have that thing.
Man, but I mean, yeah, that's the last I remember seeing him, and I've been watching all this stuff chronologically. So unless he's like popped up on Worldwide or Saturday Night, which isn't on Peacock, or at least not in this era,
not yet, no.
Unless he's popped up there, he hasn't been on TV at all since he had half his head shaved. And
right, so I think that's probably why they pivoted to do the Horseman.
This is such a weird, like, either do all new guys or like all other. I don't know. It was just a weird combination. It's just like whoever they had backstage, they just threw out there.
I think you could have taken like Benoit. You could have taken a Horseman and then added another undercard guy and like, but it would have seemed more like Team WCW, although the Team WCW guys were pretty damn WCW through and through. Giant Steiners and Luger were, what it was, but Piper just, I mean, to be fair now, he started off with anybody and he ended up with the Horseman. It could have been anybody and it would have been up Team Piper.
Well, the Horseman, quote unquote. He's like a Jarrett and Mongo and Benoit, which, I mean, they're horsemen, by name. They got the jackets, I would assume, but it's not really what you think of.
We'll talk about that Spring Stampede 97 promo, which I thought was wonderful. With them as the horseback riding. Well, I thought that was dope.
Yeah, it was something. It was definitely a thing that happened. But so that sets the stage for the main event here. But there's a lot of windy turns and pivots on the way there, as per any WCW show. Yeah. But Uncensored, we kicked the show off. First of all, I'm glad that they got rid of the gimmick where like the first Uncensored, they didn't have any title matches because everything was unsanctioned, which is kind of a bummer, at least for me. So lots of title matches on this show. Well, a couple. And the big story leading into Uncensored is that Eric Bischoff was suspended by Harvey Schuller, I believe his name is.
Schiller, I think.
Schiller.
Yeah.
His cocksucker's name is.
A lot of these names are that we'll talk about. I got him for sure. He was mentioned on the Who Killed WCW thing. Like a lot of these guys you don't really know now, 30 years later, and it's like, oh, they were really behind the scenes this whole time. Like, damn.
Right.
So
that's really the only implication that has. Is that's why NWO isn't really in an advantage in the main event, and that's why they have stakes. It's like they have something to lose in the main event, but I guess we'll touch more on that when we get there. But man, we open up with a dandy of a matchup. We got the United States title on the line in a no DQ match. We got the champion Eddie Guerrero defending against Dean Malenko. So not for the cruiserweight title, for the U.S. title, which is fun to see. Fun to see these guys get somewhat more of a spotlight, I guess.
Absolutely.
I mean, Eddie, Dean, there's no way these guys could have a bad match with each other. It's as good as you would expect, but this had a lot of story behind it as well. I don't know how much you remember about what these guys were getting after at this time, story-wise.
Well, the title was kind of like, wasn't it held hostage by Six at a point?
Yeah, Six is like the kleptomaniac of sorts now. He stole the cruiserweight title before, then had to give it back. He's the belt collector. And then is that how you collect belts? You just take them. Why fight for them? Just take them.
Yeah, they have to beat them for them.
Yeah, I guess. But yeah, Six is the cruiserweight champion. And Eddie cost Dean the cruiserweight title at Super Brawl, which is why we're here, basically. Both guys are kind of accusing each other of being shady characters, cheaters of sorts.
Which is funny with Eddie Guerrero, what he turned out to be.
Right. A lot of foreshadowing, which is, Dean knew what was up. We should have listened to Dean Malenko.
We should have known. Yeah, Dean was not Ciclope, but he knew a lot about the luchadors.
That's very true. He is definitely not Ciclope. That is one thing that is
not
a
yet.
Fact. But does he become that was Ciclope. That was the Jericho feud, right?
Right. And I was just quoting Tony Schiavone when he's like, "That's not Ciclope."
Good job, Tony. Always on the ball. Always on the ball. But yeah, great match. Great match. Any general thoughts about this one?
Sure. I'd like to just start, so they said this is the third annual Uncensored. It's just funny that, that first one happened. And I know we talked about it in our the SIP series episode that'll be airing also this week, where I was like, pick one show, you're going to the gallows. What do you want to watch? One pay-per-view. And you're like, oh God, if I want to die quicker, I watch Uncensored 95. I was like, damn,
Sold Out 97 may have overtaken it as the worst. I'm still kind of up in the air, but continue.
Well, here's my thing. There is one good match. That ladder match is amazing on the Sold Out show. Is there one great match on the Uncensored show?
Oh, the mustard and ketchup deal is pretty fun.
That's pretty good, yeah. Yeah, that's true.
No, Uncensored's probably still worse, actually. Because Sold Out also had the Steiners beating the Outsiders, which is pretty cool. They had some fun stuff, I guess.
Yeah, it was okay. Yeah, there's plenty of worse shows, trust me. And the further you do this timeline thing, you're going to really get into them. And, I volunteered to do this show. I don't know how many of those WCW 2000 shows I want to do.
Yeah, we'll get into some Greed maybe at some point down the road.
Well, at some point, that's it. That's the end. That's the last show.
Yeah, well, I'll mark it down. We'll get to that in 12 years or whatever I get to that.
Hell yeah. So yeah, third annual show. I think I got in here that they referred to it as the Low Country, which I don't know if you picked up on that. I was like, the Low Country. Isn't it Charleston, South Carolina in here?
Yeah,
somewhere?
It's definitely South Carolina. Yeah.
So the Low Country, I just thought that was interesting. And the crowd was on fire as soon as they kicked this show off. No DQ. I like you said, U.S. title with these two guys. I also love that we get Prince Iaukea and Rey Mysterio for the TV title, not the Cruiserweight title. So you get a lot of unique things going on here in 97, which I've always said is the best overall year for pro wrestling. This match was great. I have Dean he has such a beautiful suplex. It's no wonder that Dean Malenko was number one in the PWI 500 for 1997.
Was he now? I believe it. I've always known Dean was good, but me as somebody that never watched WCW, I've only seen snippets and highlights of his work. But man, watching all these matches, the match with Six at Super Brawl, his matches with Ray and Psychosis, God, he amazes me every time I see him. Everything he does is just so good. It's so good.
He's really, if it's crazy to say he could be underrated, but like you said, if you're not really familiar, it's not like he went to WWE and had a crazy career. If you didn't catch him now in WCW or even a little bit in ECW, likely you didn't see much, if any at all.
Yeah, and he's not even just a technician, which I feel like is where he's always pigeonholed. This story's he's showing aggression in the match, and he has his facials are great. His promos on Nitro leading up to this were pretty good. I believe he and Ed, because him and Eddie were friends, been friends for years at this point. He's like, I thought I knew you. You didn't. And that's kind of what both of them are saying to each other. So it's there's some good stuff going from promos and stuff within the match. I mean, everything was hitting.
Yeah, I always liked his. I don't know if he did it in this match, but I know he's done it with Rey Mysterio, where he goes off the top rope into that gut buster and he's on his knee. Yeah. That's brutal. No wonder he's not wrestling much longer after he's done in WCW. Eddie started getting booed at one point, and I'm like, these fans they want Dean. They are all in on Dean. And then here we go, Dusty Rhodes. He said stomp in a mud hole 5+ times in 30 seconds. And then Bobby Heenan, again, so quick to just have a line out of nowhere. And he's like, director of mud holes, Dusty Rhodes. he was just so on fire.
They were on one in this match, especially, but the whole night. I mean,
well, wait till we get to the tag match.
Yeah.
The ring mat logos. What were your thoughts on this? Because I think this is one of the first times they actually had logos in the ring for WCW. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, because they generally had just the WCW logo in the middle, or just no logos at all.
Yeah, they had like the circular like Target logo for a while.
Yeah.
And I mean, other times they just had nothing, but then they started making like unique ones to the shows. It kind of varied.
I liked it. I mean, it was like what, the big logo in the center and then the corners, right? Was it just uncensored?
It was uncensored in the middle and then WCW at each of the corners.
Okay, I like it. Nice symmetry going.
Yeah,
makes
it was
feel
simple.
different.
It was this. So during the match, is this when they show Rick Steiner being face down?
Yes,
I have that in here, like in the middle of it all.
This is shortly after the mud hole stomping. So they randomly cut backstage to a man face down on the concrete, whatever, some corridor backstage. And you got Scott Hall, Nash, Six. Yep. It's just those three, right? Standing above this.
What happened to him? What happened to him?
So first of all, it's Rick Steiner. He's face down. There's no way you can tell it's Rick Steiner from his ass.
From his hair, maybe, but like it's a reach at best.
Yeah, even commentaries like, who is that?
On.
Yeah, exactly. He doesn't have a singlet. There's no tie-dye. Nothing to suggest that it's Rick Steiner. And commentaries like, who is that? They have to like get word in. They have to like get buzzed in to their ears. Oh yeah, it is Rick Steiner. So I guess Rick Steiner's out of the main event.
Tony says Surly. And Dusty goes, don't call me Shirley. Dusty also says ambulance.
Oh yeah.
And Scott Hall going, I'm not a detective. Like who could have done it? And right before they leave, he puts Rick Steiner's hat on him. Don't forget your hat. He laid it on him as he's walking out of this thing. Like,
what a guy.
Oh my God.
What a friend.
Just great. So, and we'll get to the of course, I'm a huge fan. I remember these things, but they're all bits and pieces of where the timeline is. That's why I'm here with you. And I forgot that this was when they did, we'll get to it, but when they did the voyeuristic video, that was the craziest shit. I remember watching it then being like, oh, he's dead. And it's pretty seamless. So we'll get there. Back to like the match.
Yes. Dead man backstage. All right, back to the wrestling.
That's right. Eddie uses the rope for leverage, and Tony goes, "It's uncensored." And I was like, "Here we go. Here we go. Anything that could." And it's already. First of all, it's no DQ, and we'll talk about that with the finish when we get to it.
Well, I was actually just thinking, like, shouldn't every match just be no DQ if it's uncensored? No rules.
It's uncensored.
No
Tony.
restriction. It's uncensored.
It should be. You would think.
Man.
We got. Froggy splash him if you can. That's a Dustyism. Oh man, he said instead of diligent, he said diligent.
He tries. He tries.
He did try. He tried a lot. He really was having a way with words on this show.
Oh, he was making noises out of his mouth. That's for sure. By the way, I have in all caps and highlighted. Yes. Eddie goes topless, which is a big moment for me because I'm sick of singlet Eddie. I need my Latino heat. I need my dun 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 or whatever his music is, and I know at some point he turns heel. Yes. Damn, are you ventriloquist? That was pretty good. I'll shove my hand up here. What? So we got Eddie going topless.
It's uncensored.
It's because it's the nips are out. And it's a sense of that Eddie that I know, which I hope we get soon. But big, I mean, the tilt-a-whirl backbreaker, power bombs, all of the classic Eddie stuff. That power bomb into like a jackknife pin was beautiful.
I have that into that flip into the jackknife. That was unbelievable.
So so much force.
The frog splash from Dean, and then coincidentally the cloverleaf from Eddie, I thought was great. It's an easy spot to do, but when it's done so well, it makes an impact.
I feel like you didn't see that much though back then. Like using each other's finishers. Like now that's like a staple.
Hell no. Yeah, no. You can't steal my move. Back in the day.
That don't work for me, brother.
And the other great thing here, Dusty Rhodes saying war. It's a wall. It's a wall. And he would just somehow he'd say it the first time, and then with the next minute he would just come up with other terms, but always say it's a wall out there. Eddie Guerrero and Dean with this wall.
He's like every sentence he says is like he's falling down a mountain. It's just like he's just throwing words out there, and a lot of them stick. Love the old Dream here. I mean, just having Dusty Rhodes calling an Eddie Guerrero and Dean Malenko match. I know it's like kind of commonplace during this era, but it feels like they're different like lifetimes, like as far as their wrestling careers.
It is. And I'll touch on it a little bit later on, but I have I dug through and figured out the history of Dusty Rhodes on commentary as it regards to pay-per-view, because I felt it was interesting.
Oh.
I couldn't remember like the actual time frame of when he did it, and it's actually earlier than I thought. Then he's done for a bit, then he's back into it for this last little run. So we'll talk about that later on.
Gotta love it. But they're playing up on, who's basically they're accusing each other of being heels, each of them.
Yeah.
That's like Eddie's definitely being the more devious, like you said, the figure four with the ropes. But Dean comes back with a low blow of his own, but I guess no DQ, so I don't even know if it was behind the ref's back. But Dean hits a low blow, and then Eddie hits a low blow, and then a small package for a 2 count. So we got some good near falls here towards the end. And like you said, Eddie goes for the clover leaf after Dean tries a frog splash, and it's at this point where Six comes out, the cruiserweight champion, back to steal another belt. He's already got that cruiserweight title around his waist, and now he grabs the U.S. title belt that just ring. Which at some point, can we get a guide? Can we get a guy to watch the belt and make sure nobody takes it? Like, is that so much? Lock it up, maybe.
They gave ring gear to people, like here they hand it over and they give it to him. You'd think someone here, take my belt and don't let this jackass other wrestler who's clearly stealing belts, don't let him near it.
Right.
Just walks
seen this
out.
Guy? Yeah.
Have you seen this guy? Yeah.
Takes the U.S. belt, walks away with it. Nobody tries to stop him until Eddie does. Eddie tries to stop. He grabs one end of the belt as Six has the other end, which is very reminiscent of how Dean lost the title at the last pay-per-view. But this time when Six lets go of the title, Eddie swings it. But this time Dean has it scouted and he ducks the belt. And he grabs a camera. At some point he grabbed a camera from somebody.
Six has his camera and he goes to swing. And this is where it's uncensored, but clearly it doesn't matter because it's no DQ and it's uncensored. And the ref is like, it's not that he's like oblivious, but it's portrayed as the referee is in a spot to where, oh, I can't see what's happening. When I'm like, you don't have to even like do that. And that's when Six swings the camera and misses, and it flies to the ring, and Dean gets to use it.
Clocks Eddie in the head and gets the 1, 2, 3 new U.S. champion Dean Malenko. I like the
thoughts
sound
on. Do you like the sound of Dean Malenko's theme music? Dun, 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 dun,
yes.
Dun, 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 dun. Yeah,
it's not very cold. Very icy. It's not as good as his WWF one, the one that Cesaro would take eventually. It was.
Oh, really?
Do you remember Cesaro was one of his first themes where it was like, dun, 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 dun.
Yeah. Oh my God. Was that Antonio Cesaro days?
Yes.
Maybe?
Yes. This was after he was a rugby player, but before he wore suits.
Okay. They're just recycling themes. We had that conversation the other day. People just recycle themes. They don't care.
Pat Tanaka with Goldberg's theme song? Hell yeah, brother.
What did he win that match? Is he 1-0? The streak? Oh, well, the streak
who did he even face?
Is over.
Who did Pat? It was a terrible match, whatever it was.
Very memorable.
I don't know.
It'd be funny if he faced Goldberg when Goldberg didn't have music.
Goldberg came out to.
He wins the music. He did come out to other music. He came out to Megadeth, I think, in like
Goldberg
the late, like 99 or 2000, like late. But I think he came out to. I couldn't tell you the song, but I'm pretty sure he came out to a Megadeth song.
That's not real Goldberg, in my eyes.
No,
don't think so, Tim.
Fools, Goldberg.
That's a lot of fun. You should put that on a T-shirt. I'd buy it. No, I wouldn't.
Maybe.
We got any other thoughts on that U.S. title match before we get to Mean Gino?
No, I think that was pretty much it. There was a lot that went on, like story in the match, story that they cut to that wasn't a part of the match. The no DQ, even though they're trying to hide a possible DQ, double low blows. Good opening match, I felt, overall.
For sure. Always, it's not a cruiserweight title match, but 2 cruiserweights, always good to set the tone for these PPVs back in the day.
Yeah.
But we got Mean Gene backstage. He's plugging the hotline. Apparently, some WCW star is gone from the company.
Who left WCW?
Who did? But who did? Do you know?
I forgot to look it up, to be quite honest with you.
Trying to think who. It's probably some low.
At this stage, what are we at? March 97.
Yeah.
Going into Mania 13. Was there anybody there that was like, oh, I can't believe they showed up? I can't really recall anybody.
No, I'm trying to think of anybody that showed up in ECW or.
Oh yeah, even ECW. Point. I'm not really. Maybe it was just a tease to get you to call the hotline, and it was really nobody.
It was probably Hard Work Bobby Walker or whatever his name is. You know what I mean? So
I cannot believe
Bobby Walker.
Yeah, cannot believe we got a Bobby Walker shout out on this show.
I tried to shout out
Pistol Pez Watley.
World War III competitor Pez Watley. It's the only match I've seen of him.
We were in World War III. That's how many people were in that.
Yeah, I mean, we might as well have been. Who knows? But so he's plugging the hotline, Mean Gene is, and then he introduces Roddy Piper.
Oh, here we go. Piper promo.
I don't know how to take notes on Roddy Piper promos. So he's just yelling at me, but he's saying a lot of things, saying a lot of good things.
Yeah.
Saying a lot of not so good things. But I mean, he's talking about Rodman.
Yeah.
We didn't even mention Dennis Rodman's here. He's going to be a big part of the main event. Piper's
worm.
Making fun of his. He's like, I got a kilt. You got a dress or whatever the hell.
He was going off. He was really going off. He brought up his metal hip again. Because last time we talked with Starrcade, and the lead up was that promo where he says a whole bunch of nonsense. Go figure. And then Gene's like, "Oh, how's the hip?" And Piper just hops on one leg out of the frame. So they're still doing that thing.
But you would think your hip would be stronger if it's metal, no? So it's is it still a hindrance?
It should just be never not as strong as possible. It's metal in your body. How is it not?
Don't know. I think
because Luger had the 4-inch plate in the left forearm and beat Yokozuna with.
Right. Devastating.
Piper needed to do a Harley race knee, and maybe he would have helped out with that.
Or
the high knee,
or the Naomi's move, the rear view.
Oh yeah,
bust that out.
Rear view. Yeah, wow. Look at Piper had a whole threshold of moves he was not tapping into. Unfortunately,
I'm telling you, he would be way more decorated if he just listened to us. You know what I'm saying?
You want to talk hip attack?
Oh, come on! I mean, it's right there. It's right there.
It's there for the taking. It's uncensored, Tony.
Well, speaking of which, Piper's he's, where are the horsemen? I haven't seen the horsemen anyway. They're right there. They just come in hey, we're here. Benoit,
That's where I would love to see the real shot of this the room, and they're just what the hell is this guy talking about? We're right here, dude. Can you just introduce us?
So they come into frame. Benoit, Jeff Jarrett, Mongo.
Jeff Jarrett.
What do you think about Double J and the Horsemen?
This is the end, the always ongoing debate. Is Jarrett a real horseman? Was Paul Roma a real horseman? I think if you're in there, man, they saw something in you. It's not. It's look. Here's my issue here is when who's a real horseman, and does anybody really say that outside of the only 4 or 5 members of the NWO? No, they just say they were all terrible. There were too many people. I think if you're part of the Horsemen, there was maybe 10 total Horsemen. It's not that bad, and it was over the course of 15 years, not 3. So I think Jarrett fit. I like Deborah in there, and I don't know. I think it worked. I think he definitely brought that I hate this guy mentality in the Horsemen, even if you like the Horsemen.
Yeah, the Horsemen are definitely at this point. It's everybody loves the Horsemen. You can't boo Ric Flair at this point. Arn Anderson, people love him. Even Benoit, I feel like people love at this point. Mongo's cool.
Mongo has charisma. I have here. He said, "Have a nice day, Denny." To Rodman.
Chicago Bear versus Chicago Bull.
That's right.
You know what
I love that. Like it blew me away that Mongo somehow was the most coherent of all the promos here. Benoit's on his own planet. Jeff Jarrett's just double T, double, and Piper's talking about nonsense. So look, good for Mongo, man.
Yeah, he is. Mongo definitely, he, like you said, he has that spark of something, that charisma. He like just leaps off the screen. And even in the like, I always saw people like making fun of Mongo for his botches or whatnot, but he's like pretty good in the ring, especially for like just a football player that decided to wrestle. Like he's solid, I think.
He gives it his all, and to be fair, it almost brings like that authentic realism of he literally is a football player. If the football player has only gotten, a little bit of training in wrestling, how else would you expect him to attack people? He's just going to run at him and tackle him, and he's fighting people.
Those chop blocks to the front of the knee. I mean, come on now. The
tombstone pile driver.
Beautiful tombstone from this Mongo.
Yeah.
Does it better than anyone. Including Sonny Ono, who's here with Ultimo Dragon to take on Psychosis. We got all Psychosis versus Dragon here. Another one that's like, you see it on paper, you're like, oh, it's probably going to be pretty good. And it was. I think Sonny Ono might be the MVP here, low key. But man, another one where Dusty and Brain were just on.
Oh, yeah.
But man, I mean, there's a lot to say about this one. Maybe there isn't. I don't know. But just both guys are really smooth and snap. Like the chain wrestling was really good in the beginning. Then they bust into the high flying stuff. Just felt like everything had so much intent behind this one. It was kind of a low stakes match, kind of a random cruiserweight match they threw in here, but I really enjoyed this one. What'd you think about it?
I did too. I also wanted to mention that Piper brought up the, we changed the questions as soon as you think you got the answer. Like he brought that up, which I just like hearing that in a WCW sense. Like you always see the classic babyface Piper from the 80s in WWF. He's still going back to the well. It still hits. I liked it. Psychosis Ultimate Dragon. I couldn't tell you which
still
is
haven't.
which.
They haven't. He's been there for like almost a year, probably at this point. Can they figure it out which one it is?
In this match, I've got a couple things. I've got Psychosis being 25 is insane. That's ridiculous that he's. And that's still not to say that Rey Mysterio is like 21 doing all the stuff he's doing.
Yeah, they all start wrestling at like 12 years old, though.
Well, that's what I'm saying. He said Psychosis is only 25. He's 9 years into his career.
Right.
I'm like, oh my God, what the hell is going on? Dusty says, I trained in Tijuana myself a couple times. Don't know what that's about. The slingshot leg drop over the top rope to the outside.
Ooh.
That's going to hurt a tailbone. And then the back handspring to the guardrail from Dragon was dope. Like, I love when you do it in the ring, but when you're kind of just out in a different element and they're still pulling off those moves as if it's nothing.
Right.
That just shows how like impressive that is. And when they hit the outside, so they said it was concrete. And then Tony Schiavone's like, well, not really. It's like particle board that's above the floor, which is ice because it's a ice hockey arena. And Dusty says, particle boards. He's just losing it.
Did they talk about this man talking about particle boards? It's wood, Tony. Or whatever.
It's a wall.
It's uncensored.
It is uncensored, Tony. Tony's mocking Dusty this whole time. I like the double spin wheel kick that like they both tried one and it like canceled each other out.
Oh yeah.
But that was pretty cool.
Well timed.
The tornado DDT was insane.
From the top rope. Yeah, it was like
from the top rope. Yep.
Victory roll position. Is it Psychosis that does it, right?
Yes. Or no, I mean, it might be Dragon that does it.
One of them does it. It's a top.
Someone does it.
Is that another match? No, it's this match, right?
I think so.
I thought
because I also have in here someone. It had to have been Dusty. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say it was Ultimate. That was the finishing stretch. It was Ultimo hits a running Liger bomb, then goes to the top rope. It's a top rope tornado DDT, and then a tiger suplex, and that gets to 1, 2, 3
to end it.
Yes.
I can't recall who put it in. I didn't note who said this, but Puerto Rican backflip. I don't know who said that.
That sounds like Brain to me.
Probably Brain. And then I think he also said, because they brought up Jushin Liger. Bobby Heenan made himself sound confused, like as who they were referring to, and he said Jushin Feigen Luger.
Liger he's wrestled for WCW. He's called Liger matches before.
Doesn't stop the brain. Man. He's always thinking. Luckily, this wasn't Road Wild where he was a little off the sauce by the end of it. So.
How could you not? How could you not be?
And in Sturgis, I'd have been hammered. Oh God!
But man, so there's a lot of good offense here. Like you were talking about all that stuff on the outside. Yeah. Ultimo's kicks. I mean, his like combinations of kicks were just so snappy, and they sounded brutal. They looked brutal.
Yeah, dude.
And they get on the outside, and then Sonny Ono pops up out of nowhere with a spinning kick to the face of Psychosis, like a beautiful kick out of no. I guess he knows martial arts. Maybe he taught Ultimo everything he knows.
And he's also like the liaison for New Japan with Eric Bischoff. Like that's how he got practically any of those shows done in 95 and 96. And a lot of these talents come over from him. And coincidentally, the inventor of the selfie.
Oh, he had a digital camera out here, by the way, which 97 feels early.
That is, well, he had high technology back. That was pretty quick. You got on that New Japan money, but yeah, taking a selfie with a digital camera front facing, so you don't even know. But that's people have said that. I think he has a logo of like a cartoon version of himself where he's doing that, and I think he sells it as a T-shirt.
I like it. The more you know. Fun fact.
He sold some shirts on eBay. I don't think I've bought any of them because they were all like generic like Nitro shirts, but there was some that I think the shirt he wore on this show, I couldn't tell you who was on it, but I'm pretty sure he's either sold it or he put it up on eBay, that exact shirt.
That sounds like Sonny Ono to me. That makes a lot of sense. But no, he kicks Psychosis and then he looks at the camera. It's like, oh, I think he slipped. He had an accident. Which, by the way, I'm a quarter Asian, so I can do the accent, everybody.
That's fair. And he should be alongside Scott Hall making jokes like that. Exactly. What happened to him? What happened to your Rick? Don't forget your hat.
They went to the same acting school, I think. But but no, Ultimo ends up getting the win with that brutal combination of moves. And Sonny Ono calls out 6 after the match. So I guess Ultimo wants that cruiserweight title. I guess we'll get old X-Pac versus Ultimate sometime at some point. So yeah, I thought all this was good. I liked it.
Yeah, 2 for 2, man. Not too much on this show I was disappointed with, and that I was not this. So we'll get to the disappointment.
There's a point in the show where it's like a car accident. It's like, oh, we're going great, and then we go
that was
off a cliff.
Well, that was the Steiners,
and it was the literal car accident, actually, probably. So, but we're not there yet.
No, because not yet. We got plenty more.
We got Mean Gene here on the stage this time.
We got a hot angle is what we have here.
Brother, you the man, brother. Oh, Macho. Well, before Macho, we got DDP coming out, who is just so over at this point.
Over. It's crazy.
The rocket is firmly up his ass, and he is going to the moon.
For a year ago, when he's got more gimmicks, than a Vince Russo pay-per-view, for him to be so over, have a pretty significant hold on what his character is and who he is and where he's at on the card. And when you know what he's coming to get with 97, it's so crazy. And the fact that he's so old at this point for wrestling standards.
I mean, it's like 37 probably at this point, something like
he's
that.
He's in his mid 30s, and that's like end all be all. You can't start at that age back in those days.
And it's 97, 37 or 30, mid 30s.
That's like 70.
Yeah, exactly. You got like John Tenta, who's probably the same age at this point. So
John Tenta Arn Anderson always looked 45.
Exactly. Even to this day, he doesn't age. But DDP comes out, so we're fresh off of Macho Man and the whole NWO beating down DDP on Nitro, and then Macho with a series of top rope elbows. So we got a bit of a beef between Mach and Dallas here. So DDP is like, hey, he says, if you're that much of a savage, snap into this. Bang! It's so corny, but it's so awesome. I love it. I feel like I shouldn't love it, but I love it.
It's because it's so simple. It's an easy thing to pull off. And at the time, like people just gravitated towards that. And he was one of the very few that were on WCW's side that people could believe in.
Yeah, he just felt so like he had that kind of character that matched the NWO in terms of like he just felt like a guy. Like he wasn't like this. He's not no face paint, no tassels. Like he's like that cool version of the NWO, but like the baby face side of it. So I feel like, and that's what fans I feel like were gravitating towards, and like Stone Colds and things like that. So
well, he was the real people's champion. But I call parallels with like you had Sting for Hogan, like bigger than life, bigger than life. Savage with DDP, the Steiners were with the Outsiders. You had all these perfect complements, and you had Luger in there as well as like you really didn't know, but then he turned out by the end of this year being a huge part of that WCW side. So it's nice to have each side having nice representation of hierarchy of stars.
Yeah, exactly. But I guess DDP's wife Kimberly was in Playboy at this point. I don't know if you've ever perused this copy or not.
I read the articles, but I haven't seen the photos.
Right. Yes, you're in it for whatever the hell. I don't even know what's in Playboy. I've never seen one.
The journalistic integrity of Juice Springsteen.
Exactly. So the production of all of this, because DDP's cutting his promo, calling out Macho Man, and then you just hear off camera, brother, and then it pans over to Macho Man and Liz, kind of by the commentary table, and they have this Playboy, and I guess they're looking at Kim. So I guess Macho's just jacking off in front of Liz or whatever. I don't know. But I liked how they showed you Kim in Playboy, but they had NWO spray painted on it to hide the whatever bits, which I thought was pretty clever. And
what was better than that was Dusty Rhodes saying, "Why'd they spray over it?"
I didn't catch that. God damn it, Dusty never changed.
Oh my God! This is such a serious angle. And like he just cuts in with the most outrageous stuff, and I was so happy that popped in. Macho also said that they talked about Playboy, they talked about Pam Anderson, and he said Tommy Lee is cool with us dating, like back in the day. And I'm like, was he?
I mean,
because he's referring to like Bash at the Beach '95 era where they did the Baywatch episode. Around that setting, so I'm sure they did have something going on there, but it was just wild for him to say that. Liz doesn't care, to be quite honest.
Liz is a airheaded idiot. I don't like Liz. I don't want to say I don't like her. I'm aggressively indifferent on Liz. I feel like she just like has the same face no matter what scenario she's in.
Yes, I feel the same way, but I don't blame her. I blame the company for like not being able to put her in anything other than just like hanging around with Macho. Like they didn't give her much else to work with. Because to be fair, that's really all she did was just kind of stand around, be the valet. I did think it was epic though when she started spray painting Kimberly. I'm like, this is good. Like it's good stuff. Like you never see her do anything.
She even gets on the mic at some point and starts talking shit, which again, you don't never see her do. So it was definitely a refreshing take on Liz, if nothing else.
So I like that, but the whole angle was great. And you know what you're going to get. You're going to get a match at the next pay-per-view. You're going to get a match at Great American Bash, and you're going to get a match at Halloween Havoc. So
I mean,
a great trilogy of matches that you're in for coming up. So
I'm looking forward to it. I mean, two of the shining stars of WCW at this point. That's for sure. And just to tie it all up, because Kim walks out with NWO painted all over her in her dress. Yep. DDP turns around to console her. Macho Man attacks him from behind and then paints NWO on his back. And then as Kim is consoling Dallas, Liz paints on her. And it's to your point, sets up the matches coming forward really well. Great heat, great angle. Just good stuff. Good stuff.
I find it funny that you were only referring to her as Kim. Because it's just been Kimberly, and she's Kimberly.
We're tight like that.
Oh, does Dally know about that?
Nah,
that was Scott Hall's. That was Scott Hall's affectionate name for DDP. So I always liked hearing that whenever they were doing their like healing of all their problems. He would Dally.
Right.
So
good old Dally. Gotta love him.
Kim. See, I'm gonna start calling her Kim. What the hell's wrong with you? Kimberly still looks great.
Yeah.
I've seen some recent photos.
Oh,
Shout out to the
she
women.
does.
Yeah, shout out to the women from yesteryear, still looking great. I'm looking at you, Francine and Dawn Marie on this episode of NXT. Wow.
Francine in particular. I mean,
yeah, roll tide.
So, what's her? Are they still together, Kim and DDP?
I think they were married at a point, which is crazy. Remember, I brought up how I couldn't fathom that Tommy Dreamer and Beulah were actually married still married. Pretty much the same thing, but I think they're divorced. At least at this point, I'd wager they're still friends or friendly. I couldn't imagine them not being in each other's lives.
There's another Kim Page, I think that's an actress. I don't know. I'll do more research later, and I'll
look at the DDP and see when he was. I'll look it up. You get to the next match.
The blood's gonna go from my head other places. We can't do that. We can't do that. But oh man, never mind. It's already going there with this next match. We got a martial arts match. Mortis, the debut of Mortis, of course, with James Vanderberg taking on Glacier. So we're just getting right in. I thought like Mortis was introduced and then they built up to this match, but no, we just get it right out the gate. And obviously, for anyone unfamiliar, it's Chris Canyon playing Mortis, and which I don't even think I realized, but James Mitchell here as James Vanderberg. I've never seen this version of him, which is very interesting to see. Doesn't have the devil eyebrows
or Coke.
Oh, yeah, not yet. But
not that we can see, not openly on camera that they cut to.
Well, they're professionals, you see. This, every bit of me wants to say this is my match of the night right here. I love this. Maybe not always for the right reason. Not always for the. All right. First of all, before we get into anything. Hold on. Where I got something here. Hold on.
Can I interrupt before you get to the? Oh wow!
No. Go ahead.
See, first of all, I wish he had a Legends deal. I wish all these guys had Legends deals to get these types of gear and figures. I think a Glacier figure from Mattel, that'd be killer,
bro. Okay, Glacier's got so much going on with his entrance gear. What's the brown helmet he has on? That feels like it does not fit at all.
It looks like a 1930 NFL helmet,
right?
Looks like that leather whatever.
And then like the chest deal with the shoulders.
What's funnier is when you see in the back frame there of what he looks like in ring, and it's like, man, he's got to get all this shit off.
Yeah, it's just look, he's got to carry it out, or somebody does.
So I wanted to bring up Kimberly Page. They were married in '91, divorced in 2005, and then he was with a woman named Brenda Nair, 2015 to 2020, and now he's married to Paige McMahon. You know what? I know this because I do DDP yoga, and I've seen Paige McMahon. Don't you mean DDPY? They changed it.
It's not your mama's yoga or whatever. But yeah, that makes a lot of sense. He has a type. I'll just say that.
Yeah. Paige Falkenberg. They should have had a Meet the Fockers sequel. Meet the Falkenbergs.
Look, if anybody out there listening, I mean, you're just leaving money on the table if you don't make this happen. You know, call the right people, make it happen. I'm sure DDP will be glad to be cast in this. What else?
Yeah, DD me.
Double D's and me. I don't know. There's something there. We'll workshop it.
We just saw the segment with Kimberly.
Exactly. Speaking of double D's, I had double D's in my pants watching this match because we had Mortis taking on Glacier. Martial arts match. And my question right out the gate is, what are the rules to a martial arts match?
I'm not sure the announcers know either. I think there was a martial arts match at was it Uncensored 95 as well?
It was Duggan versus Ming.
Duggan and Ming. That had to have been 95. Yeah, see?
It's definitely 95.
Just go back to the well.
Ugh. I mean, I guess
we
this
keep
is
bringing
a lot
up
better
the
than
greatest show of all time.
I thought it was a bad show, but I guess it was the most impactful.
So I could hear Mortis like talking during this, and I was like, damn, I really wish he would have said, "Who's better than Mortis?"
It was fucking him talking throughout the match. It's like, okay, it's just Canyon wearing a mask. Like, it's not really, he doesn't really act different.
It's crazy. I never would have, I had no idea. I never would have known.
No, he kept it under wraps.
It's crazy that, well, he kept it under a mask.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know. It just blows me away that he was under a mask for all these years. And I probably at the time, I was just like, who's this giant moron in green gear? What were your thoughts on the Mortal Kombat universe in WCW as a whole? Glacier, Mortis, Wrath, and I think you can count Ernest Miller because they had a tag match at some point.
So I'm not a big Mortal Kombat guy. Are those like the names of the characters in Mortal Kombat? Like
Hell
those names?
No, they would get so washed for that.
I figure. So are they just like
based generic. On them? They're just generic, like Mortal Kombat-esque characters. My point is, I think this would have killed in like 94, 95, but now we're in the ultra realistic NWO, like great. They're great wrestlers and everything, but had it been in 94, 95 before this, I think they would have been a lot cooler. A lot more people would have gravitated towards it. And I think they could have made a lot of money on merch because I'm not sure how many. I honestly, for a guy that likes WCW shirts and everything, I don't think Glacier, I don't think any of those guys ever actually got merch, let alone just a shirt. So
really,
maybe they felt they were going to get a cease and desist, but
I mean, they could have sold that stupid brown helmet that Glacier was wearing, or
at least the mask. The mask would have been
cool. What are your? Let's talk about Glacier for a second.
Blood runs cold.
Does it though?
Cold, not hot, not great.
For whatever, like 6 months of build up to this ass. And he's just a guy. He looks like an accountant that like is a white belt in Taekwondo. He's just kush.
I admittedly, as a youth, thought it was the coolest thing ever. I saw him wrestle at the first or the second Joey Janela Spring Break. He's like the nicest dude.
I bet he is.
He's so nice. And I like the gimmick. I think the only problem was the timing of when it happened because it kind of came and it was gone. And I want to say it was like late 2000. They were running ads again. It was like the same Glacier ad, but at the end it was like blood runs cold again. It was like it was just like adding another word to it. And I think they were going to bring him back, but he never came back. And so I always found that fascinating because what the hell are you going to do with a WCW 2000 version of? Is he going to go against Canyon? Hey, weren't you Mortis?
Might as well, or just bring Glacier back as like whatever his name is, fucking Arnold, whatever the hell. What is Glacier's name? Let's give. I think
it's like a generic name.
I bet you has the most generic name.
Ray Lloyd.
Yeah, Ray names. Lloyd versus Chris Canyon, main eventing any arena.
He's a producer and trainer for AEW.
Is he now?
I think he's a good like wrestler. It's just so. And here it says that that he has a gimmick similar to the MK character Sub-Zero. So that's what it was. And it started in April 96, but he didn't come out until a little later on. So right before they do the most realistic angle of all time that kind of changed pro wrestling, they had this. And again, a year earlier, even, it could have been successful.
That's a good point. I mean, 94, 95, he could have been main eventing with this gimmick. I mean, they had Avalanche in main events. They had,
the Butcher.
They had Blacktop Bully. They had.
Well, he was the opener at
Uncensored 94 or 5.
95.
King of the Road. Who could forget? Yeah. Who could forget?
Well, they tried to because they canned both guys because they bladed.
Oh, is that true?
Yeah, Dustin Rhodes and him were gone. Dustin Rhodes goes to be Goldust like later that year. I
mean, I know they left, but I didn't know it was because they bladed. But that's hilarious.
Yeah, they were not like supposed to, and they were just like, who's gonna see it on this helicopter shot of us on this flatbed truck in the middle of nowhere? It's
like that's the line. Oh, we're just fighting in a bale of hay truck.
You know, I forgot this was not uncensored, Tony. Why can't they bleed?
There's what some censoring. Doing? I mean, they've been lying. It's almost like they've been lying to us this whole time, and it's not uncensored. No, that's not true. That's not true. I can't even say that. They would never lie to us. It's uncensored. So we got Glacier and Mortis. Just, gimmicks aside, goofy characters aside, this was a really fun match to watch. A lot of unique offense. I mean,
Canyon is amazing.
Two pretty big guys busting out a bunch of like springboards and top rope moves on top of all the kick. I mean, I feel like there wasn't enough like martial arts to call this a martial arts match, but there was some good stuff in there. Glacier, say what you want about him. He is a pretty good wrestler, especially because at the beginning of his character, he was really just doing the kicks, but then he started to incorporate the more classic pro wrestling stuff, and I think he put it together at some point. But any spots in particular stick out to you in this one?
The only one I pointed out outside of the debut of Wrath that we had here was the Famouser from Mortis. Like, my God, this dude is like 6 foot plus, and he's just like, I got it. And that's well before. Maybe Billy Gunn probably did it as a member of the Smoking Guns, but it was not the Famouser. It's probably just a generic move. But to see Mortis do it was pretty damn impressive.
Was it Marty Jannetty did the rocker dropper? I mean, it was almost more similar to that than a Famouser. But yeah,
well, he also paralyzed the guy and couldn't do that anymore.
It's just a good finish. What are you gonna do? You're gonna have a weak finish? A guy that you literally can't get up from. It sounds like makes sense to me.
That's right. Just pay the guy and that's it.
See ya.
Pin me, pay me.
So maybe my favorite part of the match is when old James Vanderberg pulls out Glacier off of a pin, and then Glacier chases him around the ring, and then he rounds a corner, and from off camera, you just see this wicked baseball slide from Mortis just completely obliterate Glacier.
Man.
It's the camera work.
Wonderful spots. Yeah, the camera. We've had some shows we've talked about where the camera work has been not good. And this was one of those good moments, I felt, that they caught. For sure. They actually caught the move. Can you believe that?
Who would have thought? Mortis busting out a gorilla press off the steps onto the apron, and then he busts out a buckshot lariat. Come on now, this guy. Maybe not as good as old Hanger Page, but
Oh, Mortis is an empty-headed dumb fuck.
Wow, how dare you? Oh, I see what you're doing. You were doing a little thing. Yeah.
You can always count on me for bits. I will set them up and use them as if they're my own material. It's up to you and then the audience to pick up on if it's original material or ripped.
You deliver it as if it was your own words. I almost didn't catch it. Props to you. I do like Glacier's unnecessary leapfrog into a big boot. I don't know if that stuck out to you at all. He's just doing things.
It reminded me of Goldberg's first match because I saw this clip going around with Hugh Morris. And he like gets blocked or something, and then he just does a backflip out of nowhere, and then he hits the body slam on Hugh Morris. And I'm like, did he need to do that backflip first?
Yes.
No, but it looked badass. That's right.
You got to build up that signature, like in the games. You got to build up the meter so you can do your.
Did you play any of the WCW games back in the day?
So I have Revenge. Oh. I have not played it yet. I didn't play it back in the day, but I have it. I just need to play it. I just need to like hook up my N64 and play it.
I was gonna say, do you have the real deal or do you have it on an emulator?
No, I have the real deal.
Hell yeah. I had Revenge, and let's see that cart. Let's see it.
Little this action right
now. Oh yeah. How about Raven getting on the cover with all those guys? How
just
about
in
that?
The background.
Good for him. Well, there's 4 guys on there. That's pretty damn impressive if you ask me.
Shout out. I guess he was the 4th best guy. Yeah.
My favorite game was my first game. My first video game system, Christmas '97. So I mean, right in the thick of this was WCW versus NWO World Tour for the N64, and it's got Glacier, but it's got like a lot of New Japan guys, but they can't utilize their names. So same character, but they're just called something different. Like they got Abdul the Butcher in there, but they call him something. It's just awesome.
Right.
And I just fell in love with that game. And I played it. There was like a recent emulator for the iPhone. I'm pretty sure I still have it, but you could play any N64 or Game Boy games. And I was playing that just over and over and over again. Like, wonderful stuff.
Look that up. That sounds like a hoot.
Yeah, people love Revenge, and they always call Revenge the game. Same with what's the WWF one that everybody goes nuts for?
Here Comes the Pain.
No, yeah, but right before, not know
Shut
your role, not Shut Your Mouth. Was it just that? Why can't I think of it?
Oh,
It's
No
like,
Mercy?
No Mercy. Yeah,
No
yeah,
Mercy.
like that.
Yeah.
People go No Mercy, Revenge, or ECW Hardcore Revolution as like the games. Because even my
Hardcore
dad.
Revolution, is that? Because I just
Yeah.
got I got an ECW game and I played it. It had the same mechanics as like Attitude or Warzone. It was
because there's also, well, it depends which one you got. Because the Hardcore Revolution, my dad would play, and he'd play as Raven, oddly enough. And to do like the even flow DDT. So the N64 controller has all those C buttons. It was like up, down, left, right.
Yeah.
It was so many different things just to hit one. He's like, I can't do this.
Right.
But those are the games people talk about. But World Tour was like the first one, and it's kind of, I feel like it flies under the radar.
I'll check it out. I mean, WrestleMania, the arcade game. That was my first ever game.
Oh, okay. I always played the WWF Superstars 2 on OG Game Boy. It had a cage match. It had 8-bit songs of Taker, Hogan, Jake the Snake, Mountie, and Sid Justice. It was just 6 guys, but it was wonderful.
Why is the Mountie there? How did he get there? He's like the Raven.
He's on the cover.
Is he now?
Undertaker's choking him, but he's on the cover.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. Speaking of choking, we got a choke-worthy match here. Glacier, Mortis. I think we pretty much talked about it. Until
Wrath.
the end. So Glacier wins with the cryonic kick. It's basically just a super kick. And wait, so he gets the win.
You're telling me it's not a setup move?
No, that would never. It's devastating. Nobody's ever going to kick out of this at one or just.
I want someone to use it and say it was the cryonic kick or whatever. And be like, no, it should have won. It was that kick. It wasn't Sweet Chin Music. Don't worry about it.
It's like Ian Riccaboni on ROH. If somebody ever hits a Death Valley driver, he calls it the Spicoli driver, which I appreciate.
I like that because that was what it used to be. People just called it because he was the innovator of it. I like that.
It's probably a bad comparison now that I think about it. But yeah, the cryonic kick wins, and Glacier gets laid out off screen by Mortis. And then Wrath makes his debut, comes down the aisle, gets in the ring. Big Uranagi to Glacier.
Oh, yeah. Huge. That was ridiculous.
Was it?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Wrath. Okay. I liked when you get to later this year, I think at World War III, I think it is. He's got a match with Meng. But when he hits like the meltdown, that's the why can't I think of it?
Pump handle slam, right?
The pump hand. Oh my god.
Yeah,
that is like great. So
I like it. No,
I mean, big guys on the undercard deliver.
I've seen clips of Wrath. I haven't, I'm not too educated on him, but I'm looking forward to his run here because he has a cool look. I mean, he's sultry looking, damn. I mean, looking at they do the close up of his face, I was like, that is a handsome, dangerous man, and I want him to cuddle me at night. And
that's not Adam Bomb.
He's he needs some footballs to throw into the crowd. I think that would really get him over.
He still has a truckload of those. I'm pretty sure.
I believe that 100%. I believe it.
And yet Glacier couldn't get any merch.
Does he? He's got to have some merch at this point, no?
Well, maybe on Pro Wrestling Tees. Maybe.
You can get,
But I don't know who has the Glacier trademark. He's probably just Ray. What the hell's his last name? Lloyd?
Ray Lloyd. Yeah, maybe it's hard to get trademark on floating piece of ice.
It'd be funny to have just that's all it is. It's just literally a photo of a glacier and it just says Ray Lloyd.
I'd buy it.
I'd consider it.
Well, we move on from that and we get a little recap.
This is insane.
The NWO and their attempted manslaughter on the Steiners. Yep. What'd you think of this little piece of business here?
I vividly remember seeing this as a kid and being like, is he okay? Are they okay? And I remember my mom, if I talked to my mom right now and brought up hey, do you remember when the Steiners flipped that car? She'd probably remember it immediately,
right?
As a huge moment of that time. I love how real it looks. I love that it's in black and white. Mm-hmm. I love the commitment to the bit. They're on a real road. It's probably a back road, but they're on a real road in real cars, and they're really like bumping into the cars.
Dude, yeah.
It's scary as
and
hell.
It's them. There's no stunt doubles, nothing.
It is really them. I love how agitated Rick Steiner looks in the car with his, hey, Scott Hall said, hey, don't forget your hat. He had his hat like waving out, like, get out of here. And it kind of reminded me of that crazed fan that interrupted the Starrcade 96 main event of just like, get out of here. And I watched this how many times, and it is pretty crisp of the cut to look. They could easily put the camera down and missed it, but you still see a car flip over. Right. And I did enjoy the touch of the NWO, like kind of being serious and like, yeah, like they didn't want that to happen, but they're like,
turn the camera off. Turn the camera off. Is anybody around?
Yeah, like I like that realism. Again, WWF wasn't. They were doing Pillman, Glock 9mm, but it is what it is. Like this was a pretty real story, and it added a lot. So I forgot that this was this show that they kind of showed it again, because I think it aired on like Saturday night. But man,
right? No, it was it's like you said, it added heat to the main event, even though Rick isn't there. I mean, it gave Scott the Steiners a reason to fight the Outsiders. It was just like you said, realistic stuff. It felt real, and it translated. I thought so. Yeah, it was good. But man, we got a strap match on our hands next. Oh, Buffy Baggs taking on the other I guess the only American male at this point.
American male, American males, American.
Can you not
males.
give this guy just like some generic rock music to come out
Something.
to? Why are we?
I could not believe. I'm like, they're still using this. They have split.
He even like still has like the gear, like the American males. Like he still looks like it.
Buff, to be fair, looks the same too, because he's got the choker, which he takes off at the end of it, because I'm sure he's dying with that thing on. Why would he wrestle with that?
Yeah.
As soon as the match is over, he goes to the camera to do his little shtick. He just rips it off, and I'm like, he probably has been bothered by this damn thing the whole show.
Yeah, why would you at that point just leave it on for the whole thing? Like, I don't know.
I know, right? It shows that like I'm only wearing this for the match.
It's not like he I don't know, man. The strap match. So of course, they're attached by a strap, and they have to touch each corner, which you gotta say that because not every strap match is like that. But
Uncensored 95.
It's
well, pinfall in the middle of it.
Apparently, don't even need to be strapped to your opponent to win. But I digress. So I feel like they didn't do a lot of build for this match. You would think it'd be like a hot thing, American males. I mean, I know they weren't like I don't know. Were they a huge team though? I feel like they didn't team that long, right?
No, their music was the most memorable part of it, and Buff became the Sean of the two, as Sean as you can get for being Buff Bagwell. But he became pretty. I think he became more popular as a babyface later on with the Buff Daddy and like that song. Again, Buff Bagwell and music. Really, Jimmy Hart knew what he was doing with that song. So. Yeah, two good songs. Because American Males is still very memorable, even if it's
iconic. Yeah.
And have you checked out the music of WCW, like album that they have on Spotify or like wherever you can see?
Is that like where it's like the purple background and the yellow?
Yeah.
I have a few. I have the Nasty Boys. I got a couple of those songs.
They sing that one. Yeah, they American Males is on that one. I think Buff Daddy's probably on it too. So anytime you want to get a little bit of nostalgia here.
I'm learning all these songs as I go through this. So as time goes on, I'll appreciate them more.
You mean Pat Tanaka's song?
Of course, yeah. Is his Black Gi coming out all slow?
Yeah, I don't think American Males really were anything other than mid card. I don't even know if they won the tag titles, to be honest with you. Buff won Marcus Alexander Bagwell won the tag titles with
Scorpio, right?
No, he might have, but it was with the Patriots, Stars and Stripes in '94.
That's right. That was Halloween Havoc, right? You just watched that, or was that a different show?
Well, that's where they lost it.
That's where they lost it.
But they had it. Yeah, it was right in that fall area of '94. But other than that, the American Male. So, and this didn't open the show. It was right in the middle. Like you'd have felt that they had a build, but not really.
I mean, this is like the quintessential like second match on the card type of match. But yeah, they threw this right in the middle. I was watching this like a strap match. So I recently watched Stone Cold versus Savio Vega and their strap match. Which have you seen that?
Both?
Yeah, just the one with the lights on.
Right.
I saw.
Yeah, that's a killer match. That put like Savio Vega gets not mentioned enough. I think he could be easily in the Hall of Fame with the people that they've got in the Hall of Fame.
Well, he's the master of the strap match. That's,
Yeah, the Caribbean strap match. Love that.
Is that why this match wasn't as good? Is it because the strap wasn't Caribbean?
I think it was just the guys in the match.
Oh, I see. So you think it's the talent involved that may have made this more lackluster?
I did notice, like, I think Scotty Riggs he like throws him to the outside. Buff like took the strap off of his hand to then go outside to reconnect it instead of trying to like let me climb over. Like he was just not having it. And it's just like, I'm just gonna make this easy on myself and get the hell out of the room.
It was that
was kind of interesting.
That's kind of representative of what this match was. It was, crowd wasn't really into it. There was a lot of, as Dusty Rhodes put it, lugging a sack of cement around the ring. He couldn't stop talking about the sack of cement. I mean, he was just going off on it. But
the only other thing I had for this match, I listened to the show with the headphones on. I've mentioned this before. I don't know if I mentioned it to you specifically on any of the shows we've done, but I am so in love with the WCW ring acoustics.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like the sound, any move, anytime there's a bump, an apron bump, any bump at all, it's just like soothing. And I don't know why it's so much different. I don't know why it's any different than the WWF rings or anything, but even ECW's rings kind of had like a weird acoustic. It sounded like someone was getting like shot every time they landed on it.
Right. Yeah,
but
especially in the later years, for sure.
Nice. Yeah. I don't know. That was just something I noticed in this match particularly.
These guys are going through car crashes on their bodies. Oh, it's nice and soothing. I like it.
Yeah, but did you hear what the ring sounded like?
You're not wrong, though. You're not wrong. It's very like aesthetically pleasing to the ears. That's for sure.
That's right.
But yeah, it's just a lot. So my question here, as far as just tactics, like strategy in a strap match, wouldn't you? And it ends up being the finish here. Wouldn't you just want your opponent in the middle of the ring so you could just touch instead of let me hog tie you, let me wrap it around your wrist and your ankles, and and they're both doing that and they can't get.
So here's the thing.
Tell me.
It works. That works. I got to wrap it around. If it's Super Brawl 3, it's Sting versus Vader. You can't have Vader just sitting there. He's going to pull it. He's a huge dude. You got to do what you can to get to the posts. It's more realistic. It's believable. Even Hogan and Vader. Hogan just said, forget it. I'll just pin Flair in a non-pin match, and he's not in it. And then now WWE has like the lights. Do you like the light thing? They've done it for a while, but do you like that?
I kind of like that it gives it like an objective, because without the lights, you got to kind of like you got to
pay attention.
Yeah. So I guess I don't,
because
it's a little goofy, but
I hate the whole notion of and how they play the momentum got stopped. Like, how do you know that? Just because he stopped, it's the momentum stopped? Like he was still standing. It's never clear. Hey, we'll go figure. WCW and their rules aren't very clear. I'm glad we're out of the era where you throw someone over the top rope and it's a DQ. Thank God.
Tony Schiavone still. I was watching I think it was on Nitro, right before this, and somebody got thrown over the top rope, and Tony's like, "Oh, why is that a DQ? That should be a DQ, right?" So they're still like kind of holding on to it a little bit, but yeah, I think they're past like actually calling matches. Steve Austin versus Great Muta ended that way.
Stampede 94
and raging. But yeah, whatever. Buff wins this match, I guess. After hanging Scotty Riggs over the top rope, which is like really the only spot they did with the strap, other than just kind of whipping each other with it. It looked brutal though. I mean, Scotty, his lower back hit the apron and made a brutal sound. And and getting hung with a strap is never it's never what you want. So it was just a very anticlimactic. And Buff kind of slowly like saunters around, touches all the corners, and then touches the last corner with his ass, which I thought was a nice touch. So
it was a really nice touch.
I'd like to touch that, you know what I'm saying? But I don't know. Any other thoughts on this little ditty, Buffy Riggs?
Not really. Again, I just noticed like Buff's shtick at this point, even though I think someone called him Mark Bagwell. They're still kind of transitioning into Buff Bagwell.
Yeah.
But there was a point where like his whole shtick was just like, let me talk into the camera and let me whisper about how terrible my opponent is, and like look how like gorgeous I am. And I'm like, that works if, you're a star, but you're not there yet. So like, just work. Like it made it seem like I'm trying to make myself over without like getting over. I'm just like telling you I'm over and you're just going to believe it. So I don't know. It was what it was. It is what it was. And I just didn't think it was placed on this card. I could not believe. I was like, Scotty, the American males explode right here.
By the way, they've already had a match. They had a match that sold out. So it's like, and that wasn't good either. So it's like, why are they trying this? I don't know.
The return.
They need a strap.
Can't wait for that cage match.
Do they have a cage match?
No.
Oh, thank God.
That's how you blow off a feud. Now we were like, well, they got 2 matches in. Let's do a third.
I guess they still could. It's never too late, right?
They're both alive. Let's do it.
Let's get it done. It's what everybody wants. We cut backstage to a really weird NWO promo where Hogan, Hall, Nash, and Macho Man are looking at the Playboy still. Or I think maybe it's just Macho looking at it, but they got the Playboy. I don't even know what they're talking. They're just weirdly whispering to each other. It's almost like sexual. So
I got some notes on this. It came off very ad-libbed. Like they were just kind of talking, which again, that was what they were doing, was these like not really scripted promos. It's kind of off the cuff. We'll assume that we can handle it and it'll come off great. And I remember when they first were doing those promos with Hogan wanted to like launch into brother. And they're like, look, man, this is not that. Just relax, be yourself, be a cooler version, and it'll play. So the ad-libbing here, Macho said you're ribbon at one point, which I thought was a cool insider term that you just don't hear in 97. Scott Hall, another great quote. I thought Silicon Valley was in California, referring to Kimberly.
Hell yeah. Big old fake tits.
Yeah. Wow. Really? Is that what he was referring to? I can't believe that's what it was. I thought they were talking about the show that didn't air yet.
That could be it. They could be talking about what's his face, the Indian guy, Machajami. What's his name? You know what I'm talking about,
Nagiani.
Najigame. Luger. Jushin Tiger Luger. Yeah.
Well, hey, there's a Seinfeld episode where it's called The Implant, and they're, hey, you watch yourself, pal.
We almost made it through an episode without bringing up Seinfeld.
Well, you said it, though, but Terry Hatcher is Jerry's girlfriend, and Jerry is like real hyped, and Elaine's like, they're fake. And they get into a sauna, and Elaine has an inner monologue. She removes her towel, and Elaine goes, oh, look at that. Silicon Valley.
Nice. I like that. See, that's why I'm a Friends guy. That they don't play on tits at all on Friends. So
don't they? Every episode, you can see their nipples.
We got Harlem Heat. What'd you say?
Every episode of Friends, their shirts are so tight.
What? I never noticed that growing up, by the way, until like I've seen all these memes and Rachel's big stupid nipples are poking out, which, whatever.
It's crazy. Oh, they're real stupid and terrible, and I don't want to ever see them.
I hate them.
Sure.
But anyways, but yeah, I mean, NWO's jerking off together, I guess. I don't know. But now we got, maybe this is the match of the night, actually.
Greatest match of all time. This match, there's a clip on YouTube where it's just like Dusty Rhodes cannot stop laughing. And it's just like a 30-second clip of this match.
Commentary made this match. I mean, the match itself is whatever. This is the uncensored quote unquote match. It's a no DQ, Harlem Heat versus Public Enemy. There's trash cans, there's cooking pans, there's frying pans, there's tables. It's an ECW match.
You forgot about the commode lid.
He got the commode lid on his neck.
Or that's not a commode, that's a picture frame.
That's not a pizza pan. That's a.
Is that a new or used toilet seat?
It looked pretty new to me.
Someone said a xylophone instead of saying cymbals for using the trash can. The lid. Who's the referee? Martha Stewart. And then no, Betty White. Like this is unhinged. This whole thing.
One of the I forget who it is, but somebody hits Booker with a trash can, and Booker just takes a hilarious bump, and Dusty just unravels. He just he laid his old tired ass out.
That one. That's a very That is such a lot. Like I just remember that specific laid his tire. Like the phrasing of that is very memorable to me for some
It's
reason.
so fucking funny, dude. I mean,
there's a point where Dusty is literally like, like he's just dying. He's literally dying on air, and they're just like, all right, this is what it is.
oh,
Sherry tries to hit Rocco Rock with like a pan or whatever, and Dusty says he knocked the hair off Rocco's head.
Sherry's MVP of this match, by the way.
Oh yeah, for sure. Wasn't it the uncensored match at 95? Was that the one where she like a couple of them like they like slipped near the concession stand, and I want to say Sherry slipped as well, but it looked very, very dangerous. All that mustard on the ground. Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, it was brutal stuff. That's why it was the match of the night. It's uncensored, Tony. It's uncensored. It's uncensored. I think Sherry even bleeds in this match. I think her cheek was sliced open. I'm pretty sure. Really? Wow. I wouldn't be shocked. Unless it was somebody else. Johnny Grunge was bleeding in this match. So I don't know if it was just some of his blood on her or what, but the flipping table spot, like to the that was nuts. Anytime they do that spot, over the top rope to the table, I vividly remember. I guess you've seen it, but Slamboree '96 in the Fakakta Lethal Lottery that they brought back for the fourth time, right? Yes, and it's like Benoit and Kevin Sullivan, and I think Grunge or Rocco Rockman. They do it, and it's like on the other person. On Benoit through a table. Like, could this guy catch a break one time? My God. They're great. They're great. My only other question, because was this the finish with the Halliburton? Yeah, so I guess I don't know if you remember or not. So I guess this match was supposed to be Jarrett and Mongo versus the Public Enemy. But it's because Piper recruited them. That's why. I just realized it as I was saying it. Yeah, of course. But so it's really kind of like a last minute match, but I guess there's still beef with the Horsemen and Public Enemy. So I guess they're still keeping that story, on the back burner or whatever. I guess I don't know if they do a rematch at the next show or what, but you'll find out. It's uncensored. Mongo comes out with the Halliburton, like you said. What does he have in this briefcase? That was my question. I was going to say, what could possibly be in the Halliburton? You want to talk about acoustics? It was such a thump. When he hit, it was right on the back, so it was like a perfect, right, like, for a big like surface area to use. Mm-hmm. You want to hit a big surface area, and it was great. I don't know. I mean, I guess it could have just been nothing, but I feel like they had something in there. Trying to remember like when it like first showed up. Like it had to be a reason, but he just been carrying it around. Like a contract of some sort, or this is not it, but I kept thinking it was like remember you didn't get there yet, but Goldberg and Mongo fight over like the Super Bowl ring. I thought maybe it would be in that Halliburton. I can't. Are you looking it up right now? Here we go. What do you got in there? Ric Flair offered him the briefcase. It was full of money to turn on Kevin Green and join the Horsemen. Oh, which wow. That rings a bell. That rings a bell. So who knows if the money's still in there, but I doubt it. But Halliburton should be in the WWE Hall of Fame. Might as well be. There's worse things in the Hall of Fame. So the Public Enemy, it's a whatever match. It's mindless hitting people with weapons. It's entertaining in some way. The crowd doesn't seem to be as entertained as the commentary team is, but commentary is off their rocker. But I guess we're keeping the Horseman Public Enemy story going. Booker ends up winning with the Harlem Hangover after the Halliburton shot, and Harlem Heat gets the win. And consistent force in the tag division. This old HH. Harlem Heat is like they look very deserved, well deserved to be in the WWE Hall of Fame. I think they won the WCW tag titles 10 times, I want to say, which is insane. That's a lot for being around from 93 to 2000 with a couple of spots in there where Booker T was by himself. Stevie Ray was in the NWO, and they still got that. It's pretty cool. Did Ahmed Johnson and Stevie Ray ever win the titles? Don't you mean Big T?
Oh, yes.
Hell no, they didn't win.
I mean, they've had
Because they fought over the name. Booker lost.
Oh.
He just was Booker. He lost it.
He lost his. Big T, Booker T. Wow, that's a lot of fun. That's a lot of fun.
WCW 2000, baby.
So there are some hits. There are some good things.
There are some. You got something to look forward to. I told you.
Can't wait. We got Mean Gene once again. I mean, he's everywhere. This Mean Gene. He's backstage with Team WCW. So he's there with Giant, Luger, and Scott Steiner. No Rick Steiner.
I have Shiny Luger as who he is.
Glistening.
Glistening is the word I would use. Yeah.
I mean, vascular as all get out. I mean,
this is WBF Luger.
Yeah. Well, he was definitely more. I think he's more lean here than he was. WBF Luger was like
couldn't move.
No neck Luger, but drinking his milk on SummerSlam or whatever.
He gets back to that level when he becomes just the total package in '99 and 2000.
Wolfpack.
Literally,
no.
Just no. After that, he's just the total package, and he's practically immobile. But he looks great.
That's all that matters at the end of the day.
That's right.
It was crazy. Luger faced AJ Styles in TNA. Like Lex Luger versus AJ Styles is a match that's happened before.
That happened.
That's wild.
That absolutely happened. AJ Styles was on a Nitro, and like that's pretty crazy.
Timelines are not real, but I
they are here every week on the Apron bump.
Come on now. Everywhere you go, everywhere you look. But yeah, I don't know. Just a good promo here from all these guys. I mean, nothing really super noteworthy. I always forget Luger. Again, Luger's another guy. People think that he's like a bad promo or he's like a bumbling idiot, but he had a really solid promo here talking about how like NWO, they don't respect honor or tradition of WCW, and Giant has a pretty good promo. Scott Steiner has a pretty coherent promo. It struck me how like well put together these guys were here. Is really my only note.
I love that you had that note, but I took very detailed notes on this. First of all, when you mentioned Luger, there was always a photo that they would use for when he was wrestling, like in '91 maybe, where he would look like this, like he's always got this. He always talks with his hands. He always talks like this with his hand coming across. He's very this is Kevin. That's the Giant. Or this is.
Well, no, when Luger's waiting to talk, he's flexing his pecs, doing this.
Well, he also does I can't do it. I don't.
Take your shirt off.
Show the crowd. Take the shirt. So here's what I noticed. The Giant killed it. He had a great promo. I always felt like maybe he's talking low, but he's really not. His voice is just soft. Because whenever he starts, he gets it. He sounds like an animal. He's like very... I don't know. It's just a nice, I don't know. Like his voice is very intimidating and it comes off like he's the Giant. Like, of course he's going to sound like that. Scott Steiner, though, to me, botched this promo. Because I can't remember what he actually says, but I have here that he says something. He then says Luger, like, hey, Luger. I'm going to he passes it to Luger and Gene goes, well, before we get to that, and he goes to the Giant. And then if you notice, Luger and Giant like pat Scott on the side, like, hey, like it's fine. Like they console him for he's amped up for this promo. It's a big deal. He doesn't have Rick with him to go nuts. Scott was just there, like they would both be nuts together and they would play off that. But
he had to have substance to his promo,
Yeah, and I think he just forgot who he was supposed to pass it to. And I just felt it was very sweet for the older guys to be like, hey, that's fine, like we got it. And to your point, all three, I think, overall still delivered solid promos. And it was just cool. I just felt that this is still pre-Big Papa Pump. But you're seeing it. You're seeing the look almost of just like how jacked he is. The white singlet, we'll start seeing more. So less than a year before he turns.
Yeah, I mean, so it was not Scott that attacked Rick here. No.
No. That's... Okay. Spoiler alert, Super Brawl 8.
Oh, I'll forget by then. Anyways, so yeah, because like I don't remember. I don't know like where exactly in the timeline we get Big Papa Pump, but like you said, he's
literally
like
right there.
He's got the body.
He looks like it here. Yeah, it's so drastic when he changes it all, and it's wild that it worked.
Right. But But yeah, we move on from that, and we got ourselves a little TV title match. The champion, Prince Iaukea, defending against Rey Mysterio Jr. here. This was, it's like, mechanically, this was a fine match, but the crowd just did not care at all about this.
Nope.
I mean, like, first of all, we saw this match at Super Brawl. It was fine then.
Super Brawl Saturday?
That's Luger, right?
Yeah.
It was super. I don't even know.
And your t-shirts are too tight too, Billy.
I'm pissed now. God, he's a treat. He's a treat. But yeah, Super Brawl, they had a match. It was fine, but they didn't really build off of that match on Nitro. No character development has really been given to Prince Iaukea other than, he's a rookie who lucked upon a title win and he's getting a little bit more confident now, but nothing's really been given to him. Rey Mysterio, people like Rey Mysterio, but like it wasn't enough to like make this match worth, getting up and on your feet for, even though no botches. Like the match was fine. I don't know. What'd you make of it?
And it went that extra 5 minutes and good sportsmanship. Let's continue it and whatever. It was okay. Before that, I wanted to note that Mike Tenay said that the match that we just saw displayed the spirit of the WCW, which I felt was really funny because it's like that was like the antithesis of WCW was chaos.
Well, I think he said uncensored. It represented uncensored, I think is what he said.
We'll have to play the videotape back. Yeah. To Prince Iaukea, it's funny that we really only brought up Rey Mysterio in regards to like the fans caring. And it was great hearing Conrad Thompson say what I'm about to say as well, when he was like, I don't know why, but I had like this hatred for Prince Iaukea. My dad had he just hated Prince Iaukea. I think it was like whenever he was up against William Regal or Steven Regal, and Regal's like a legendary wrestler in ring and very believable. And this random dude comes in and just wins the TV title. And my dad was like, I don't know. He always just had like a weird hatred for him that never was warranted maybe. And then he was like stunned when he actually won something. So that just kind of brought back those memories. Ray wrestling for the TV title is unique. Like I said earlier, when we talked about the US title, it was a cool little thing here. All the announcers, I felt, put Rey Mysterio over huge, which they could not have been more right in where his career. He's still wrestling. They could have assumed, but they never would have known in 20 years, even longer than that. He's still going to be wrestling. His son is going to be a huge deal. They never would have guessed that, even though they're putting him over. Dusty said that Prince Iaukea is the underdog, even as the champion, which I felt was not only interesting, but I wanted to bring this up that he always loved sports references and wanted to bring them to the forefront of pro wrestling. Specifically, he had the idea for Super Brawl, as we brought up, which happened in 91 for the first time. And the first one was in May, but it was still Super Brawl. It then became February, same month as the Super Bowl, which is interesting.
I never tied that together. That makes sense.
Yeah. And he also he was the guy, for better or worse, better if you're talking to me, Battle Bowl. That's all about sports and tournaments and winning a ring and very sports oriented. So hearing him say he's the champion, but he's still the underdog. It was a cool take on putting sports and making it more realistic than not. So I really like that. The only other thing I had here was that there were boring chants during this, but it was the semi-main event, so I feel like they really wanted to just get to the big, huge, the triple 4-person team.
Also, I'll just say this: we had the strap match, the plunder match, which the crowd didn't seem to care for, and now we have this match. So we've had a few matches in a row that have felt like lulls. So the crowd's definitely, to your point, getting restless at this point.
The young and the restless. Then I felt this was just an ironic line, but they did a double missed drop kick. Both of them tried and missed. Tony says they scissored their legs that time. And I'm like,
if only he knew.
Could you have any idea what would be coming? First of all, again, that he'd be even announcing one, that he stopped announcing for so long and didn't even want to be a part of wrestling and was just a barista, and now is fully in a company and is doing. Glacier is working in the same company he is, and it was very ironic to hear that, knowing what we know now.
Was scissoring invented by this point? I'm looking this up.
Probably
1820. Oh wait, hold on. It's just actual scissors, I think.
There was a clip.
Do research.
There was a right. There was a clip I posted probably a while back, but it was an early New Age Outlaws match, and to see who got in the ring first, Road Dogg and Billy Gunn did rock, paper, scissors, and Road Dogg won with scissors, and then they scissored him and Billy Gunn, and I'm like, that's perfect, of course.
That's so funny.
You know, it's just so funny how wrestling really is cyclical. Whether they planned on it or not, that remains to be seen. Because look at my bio of my Twitter. Everything is a work.
Everything.
We don't know.
Scissors.
Unless you're there, you don't know.
Scissoring's a work, folks. You heard it here first.
Don't tell that to Sid.
Yeah. Wait, what? Does he not like scissors?
Yeah, Arn Anderson stabbed him with scissors.
That's right.
They canned him in '93. We could have got Sid versus Vader at Starrcade '93.
Man, what could have been?
We got a way better match though. Vader and Flair is like a legendary match.
I would say that's probably better. Yeah, by a lot.
I just wanted to see Sid try to. I just wanted to see if Sid could powerbomb Vader. I think that's why I really would have liked to have seen it. That'd have been nuts.
Back in '93, he probably could have pulled it off. He was pretty cartoonishly big.
450 though. And I know you have the clip of Nash powerbombing the Giant, but the Giant's taller. Right. It's not all just big. Lean. And that's a lot. Yeah.
A lean 400 or whatever. Yeah. Vader probably wouldn't have been as cooperative either. Yeah, it would have been a whole
Hell
thing.
No.
He would have been chopped right on his dome, if anything.
I'll powerbomb you, pal. They were the masters of the powerbomb that year.
Who could forget Diesel versus Sid in your house? Classic battle of the power bombs. But yeah, so like you said, so it's a TV title match. Traditionally, it's a 10-minute time limit, but they extended it to 15 minutes for the pay-per-view, but they still hit the time limit. Ray hits like a twisting moonsault, goes for the pin, and the bell rings, and Ray's like, I won, but the ref didn't even count. This stupid idiot. So time expires.
He doesn't even know the rules.
Nobody knows what's going on. It's uncensored, guys. Ray says, he grabs the mic. He's like, I challenge you to more time. Give me more time. And Prince is like, okay. And the ref's like, all right, say no more. That's all it takes, I guess. Don't need to run.
Are you also a small percentage of Mexican?
Well, Spanish influence in the Philippines is very prominent. So I think there's a core that ties. Everything's tied together. So
judge ruling counts.
Yeah, so they get back to it, I guess, and then Ray hits the West Coast pop, Hurricane Rana, but Prince Iakea rolls through, counters the pinfall, and gets the 1-2-3. So the Prince gets the win here over Ray, and no, the time limit expiration, all that stuff. Maybe it was a hat on a hat, but I guess that's kind of the TV title thing is the time limit. So maybe it made sense. I don't know, but
yeah, I just think a match with these two guys, it could have just been better. But if you already know it's going to be a draw, even with an extra 5 minutes, you'd like to think that the extra 5 minutes would have been more spectacular, more riveting, something, or like a close finish to where you maybe get that third match, or if they, however they want to play it. I did also want to note Prince Iakea, I don't know when he said it, but Prince Iakea says it's uncensored after he did like a move. And I'm like, damn. Tony Schiavone goes, it's been a very bizarre night. Bobby Heenan immediately, it's uncensored. And then they pan to the fans. And I heard a fan go, it's uncensored. I think they were just like driving this damn thing to every single, I could not imagine any flyers that just said it's uncensored and had the where and when and how much it costs.
Right. If you see a camera, just yell it's uncensored. It's probably, who knows?
It makes me upset that I couldn't have been at one of these shows. I would have milked that to death. I would have been there just screaming, why are you counting them out? I would just, the whole show. They'd have to kick me in.
hopefully, I mean, NXT's breaking out all these old
I
pay-per-view names. Maybe we get
I know.
NXT Uncensored at some point and
man,
bring it all
please.
together. Booker T's already there. They can have another Uncensored classic. I mean, it just writes itself. It really just
Nasty Boys are still alive and Harlem Heat's still alive. They could pull it off.
Yeah. Yeah, those Nasty Boys. You could definitely get them out in the ring and do something. That's for sure.
God.
That's for sure. I would love to see that. Well, we get this you mentioned it earlier, the old Spring Stampede commercial, which first of all, Tony Schiavone says it's a brand new event, which
thank you.
No, it is not. It is very much not.
Let's try to erase the one time it happened before we didn't have it in 95 or 96.
Yeah, what was it? Because 94 was such a good show.
It's one of the best. I arguably say it's the greatest pay-per-view top to bottom of all time. And the 99 one, similarly.
Right.
Both Spring Stampedes. 95, I think, is when they branched out to a couple more pay-per-views. So they added World War III in November. They brought back Great American Bash, which hadn't been there since 92. So they brought that back into the fold. Nothing in January. And then they had February, March was the first Uncensored. So they skipped April. I think they probably had a Clash of the Champions then.
I think so, yeah.
But then Slamboree, they would just picking and choosing when they would do it. But because I think August is the other one that they didn't have a pay-per-view for. But every other month they did. That's when they went, I think, up to 8 then, maybe, or 10. I don't know. But
yeah, because
I heard that too. Brand new event. I'm like, Tony, you do work here. You've been here this whole time.
There's a lot going on. Yeah, Tony's got a lot of pans in the oven, or whatever the saying is. So Chris Benoit's on a horse. It's pretty wacky, right?
Deborah's on a horse. They're all on a horse. Did you see that? Deborah was riding one.
I mean, she rides that horse well. You know what I'm saying? Do you know what I'm saying? There's a joke in there somewhere, but I'm not going to make it. But yeah, Spring Stampede. Horsemen are stampeding on horses. So,
couple of notes. I thought, even with a promo like this, I'm going to have something, something juicy to say.
Of course,
I think
that's his name.
There was there's a part of this, like the music. I'm going to do my best. Dun, 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 dun.
That's good.
Indiana Jones. Swear to God, it's no. I think they use it for Survivor Series like 94, which was like a Western theme.
Oh.
Play that. You can watch. You can see that promo back, I think, on YouTube. You can watch it. And then I would say to try to find that Survivor Series somewhere they use that same song. But I think they cut it off here before they kept going. I thought it was an amazing promo. It sucks that Flair was hurt at this time because he didn't get his head slammed in the cage yet, but he was still hurt at this time. I think he had surgery.
He had shoulder surgery. Yeah.
Arn is done from wrestling already. Yeah. Halloween Havoc 96 was his last show. So it is what it is, but I enjoyed it. And then as soon as they cut out, they were talking about Arn Anderson wearing that hat he was wearing. And Bobby Heenan goes, "That's where the mule's ears go." Oh, man.
Very kind.
Before we get to the final match, I wanted to go over that Dusty Rhodes commentary history real quick with you.
Please lay it out.
So unbelievably, on Cage Match, there is a section for if you've done commentary, it says commentary career. And it shows the shows Dave commentated. FCW shows he did late in his life. He did for WCW outside of TV. So I'm only doing bigger events. He did Clash of the Champions 14. He did Wrestle War 91, which was the War Games where Sid powerbombed Pillman and killed him.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. And then also Super Brawl 1, the first Super Brawl, which had Steiners versus Luger and Sting, arguably one of the greatest tag matches ever. It's an amazing match. You should go watch it. And then he's more of a booker. He wrestles in 94 a little bit at Fall Brawl, War Games. And then he closes out his commentary career pay-per-view wise. I know he did Pro and some of those shows, but he did World War III 95 and then every pay-per-view from then up to Sold Out 98. So he was on board for the whole NWO all through 97 and then that first show of 98 and then he's done doing it. So I really couldn't have told you that exact framing, but I like now knowing it's a pretty sizable chunk of better, at least 2 years, maybe a couple months after that. But this show in particular, like we said, the tornado tag, like this is where he shined, and he could have said anything, and it was so damn funny. So, Cody Rhodes, Dustin Rhodes, that's a great legacy and everything. But Dusty Rhodes on commentary is really where he shined brightly.
That's where the royal family comes in, was his commentary.
There's more than one commentary royal family.
There's something there, right? Yeah, I like it.
Something.
Yeah, Dusty's, he's a gem. I mean, we're not really going out on a limb and saying that, but Dusty Rhodes, he's pretty good at the wrestling business, I think. Whatever you put him in.
It's crazy. He does wrestling, booking, commentary, training people, promo class.
NXT, I mean,
pretty wild.
Fingerprints all over the place. It's crazy.
Yep.
But boy, howdy. We got ourselves a main event on our hands here, ladies and gentlemen. 3-way elimination tag team match. We got Team NWO, comprised of Hollywood Hogan, Kevin Nash, Randy Savage, and Scott Hall, with Dennis Rodman. We got versus Team Piper, Chris Benoit, Jeff Jarrett, Mongo, and Roddy Piper, versus Team WCW, Lex Luger, Scott Steiner, and the Giant. No Rick Steiner. So nobody was going to step up and be that fourth guy. So
yeah, well, how ridiculous is that?
I mean, a main event payday on a pay-per-view? Like how you can't get Jim Duggan or Pat Tanaka or
right?
I think it was Pat Tanaka versus Jim Duggan, actually, that match, now that I'm thinking about it.
Wow, it would make some sense.
Cyclope.
It's funny. You could had DDP not got destroyed earlier, he could have been in this.
I think they did actually. Commentary mentioned that when DDP was coming out. They're like, oh, is DDP going to announce that he's taking the fourth spot? And then he doesn't, of course. But
what a waste. You have to tease for nothing.
Yeah. But so
I'd like for you to run down the rules of this match. Can you give me the rules?
I was about to run down. So the rules and the stakes, because there's a lot going on here.
Oh, God.
So the rules is, so it's basically war games, but wall games.
Wow.
But everybody comes out at once. So 3 people start, 1 guy from each team. They go for 5 minutes. And then after 5 minutes, 3 more guys come out. So another guy from each team. And then so on until everybody's out there. And it's an elimination match. You can eliminate people by pinfall, submission, knockout, or over the top rope.
We referenced that earlier. Now it's an elimination. Now you can actually win a match like that when you want to. Come on.
In the stakes for this match, if Team WCW wins, the NWO have to drop all of their titles and they can't wrestle for 36 months. They can't just say 3 years. It's 36 months they can't wrestle. If the NWO wins, they get a free title shot whenever they want, which is just a TV title and US title they don't have, right? So it's the tag titles too. Who's the tag team champions? That's ours are. Yeah.
Can you imagine these guys not being able to wrestle until Uncensored 2000?
Dude, like it's so long. Why is it 3 years?
That is when you think of like the scope of like.
Just fire them.
They said it because in 97 things are thriving. 3 years is a long time, but they'll be back. WCW will be great. When you know that they are done in 01, it's like, damn, they would have missed all this stuff. Like,
God,
it would have been so ridiculous. Well, I'm sure they would have had, the check still coming in as they did whenever WCW closed and they just sat on their couches.
Yeah, come to think of it, maybe they wanted to lose. They would have just not had to come to work and I don't know, have Sting face fucking Colonel Robert Parker at Starrcade or whatever. But so if the NWO wins, they get a free title shot whenever they want, and if Team Piper wins, he gets Hogan in a cage at some point in the future. So I'm watching this. I know Piper and Hogan fight in a cage at some point, but I believe that's Halloween Havoc, right?
Yep, when Randy Savage explodes his knees from the top.
Right, which is what, 6 months, five months after this. So it's like that'd be a really long way to wait for that match. So it's like
7 months.
7 months, yeah.
Yeah, it would be long, but
I was like, at some point in the future, that could feasibly be, because I didn't know who won this match, so I was fully expecting Team Roddy to win.
The intrigue.
right? I was on the edge of my seat watching this. Let me tell you. The worm. Where's the worm at? I hear Dennis Rodman's in the building. Fucking shut up. So yeah, those are the rules. Those are the stakes. What do you think about how this match was set up?
I liked it. It's a lot of chaos. It is kind of like a War Games thing. Yeah, Michael Buffer trying to do this. Props to him for like continuously rattling off and the round one and like 4 rounds of it. Like he kept going. I was pretty stunned by that. The stakes were pretty interesting. Like I said, or we discussed, like you could kind of, there's no way WCW was going to win based on 36 months. They got one less guy. It just doesn't make sense. And it makes a lot more sense when you see the end of the match and the post match. Did you ever, this is another aside, but I just am curious to hear what you think. I don't know if it was at the intro of this show, the voiceover guy. Did you ever notice how he like enunciates the W in NWO or W, how he enunciates it? You ever notice that?
You talking about the NWO background, like the Mexican jumping bean, Eddie, that guy?
No. Like, not the PA guy. Like in the beginning of the show, and it's like the intro, like of the show, like Team WCW versus Team NWO. It's like a weird way of how he phrases
very thick
the W. Yeah, and he like rolls the W. I think Michael Cole does that too. Yeah, I like it too. I always wonder if people notice things like that. Maybe it's my English background where I'm like,
you prefer W, WCW,
WCW. Yeah, this match was it was interesting, and we'll get to it. So let's dive in,
dig into it. So we got Benoit. Who starts? A Benoit, Giant, and Scott Hall.
Giant.
The Giant. I think he just calls him Giant. Actually, does he not? Giant. Yeah. Which I guess that's his name, right?
Not smoking cigarettes to the ring yet. That's good.
Not yet.
Bobby Heenan said, see how smart he is in just 1 year to the Giant. And then Tony's like, he's won the world title already. Like,
well, he won it
twice. He's trying to put him over.
He was like, he's only going to get better from here. And Tony's like, what the fuck are you talking about? He's already won the world title.
He's already reached the top of the mountain twice.
He literally can't get better than this.
And he's so smart that he eliminated himself.
Yeah, so like you said, Giant goes for a stinger splash, which he's never tried before, onto Scott Hall and just goes flying out of the ring because he's a big dumb idiot. And so he's out of there. And commentary, you could tell commentary forgot you can get eliminated by going over the top rope.
I have announcers seem shocked, all caps, LMAO.
They're like, I guess he's out.
Giant, because the Michael Buffer says it, and they're like, "What?"
Yes, yeah.
What? And then they start panicking, like, "Oh, it's over." Which I liked about WCW at this point is where they were so homerish for WCW, and I like that. It was like if NWO gets control, like we're screwed. We're not going to have a show. Like, and I loved how blatantly on Team WCW they were. So I always felt that was really cool. Like, oh no, it's all over.
They're committing to it. Yeah, gotta appreciate it. Gotta appreciate it. So Giant's out of here. So now we got our second round of entrance, which I think it's weird that like, I guess they like space them out, but it's like, okay, you got 3 enemies coming out at the same time. So theoretically they're all
standing behind the curtain.
It's like, oh, why are they not fighting each other back? I don't know. This is why I like TNA when they had opposite tunnels at the other ends of the arena. But
that's something I like that AEW.
That too, yeah.
You know,
makes sense. So we got our next round. We got Jeff Jarrett, Macho
Savage.
Man, and Luger coming out.
This is the beginning of Lex Luger's unbelievable 1997. This performance here. So the fans are all behind him.
Yeah.
In it just all he wins his world title match opportunity at the next show. Spoilers, and we all know how that ends in August, where they're immortalizing that moment with an action figure. As a matter of fact, finally,
like it. You're gonna be right on that one, I'm sure.
They even have a little pink towel that it is included because whenever they go to the back, Giant has paint thinner. And they have a pink rag wiping off NWO off the belt. They put that in the packaging. I love that detail.
I love get this NWO off of his body. We need paint thinner. I guess it makes sense. But yeah, nothing too much happening at this point. Then we get our next round, Mongo, Nash, and Scott Steiner. So now we got the entirety of Team WCW. Yeah, right. Out, but so WCW is screwed.
The team's all out, and then there's only 2 guys left.
2 on 4 on 4.
Yep.
It's at this point, I mean, Scott Steiner gets in there, and just the way he throws Scott Hall and Kevin Nash around was striking to me. It was
House of Fire. He was unreal. Man. Press slam, double underhook, belly to belly, just murdering people in there. It's unbelievable.
I mean, anytime Kevin Nash gets thrown around, it's just like, because this dude doesn't bump for just anybody. So when he gets thrown around, it's very
impressive.
Big moment. Yeah, it's really it's chaos. It's like a Royal Rumble type of thing where everybody's just kind of brawling all over the place. I'm kind of surprised nobody was like fighting outside of the ring. Like everybody was just smashed in that ring fighting each other.
Well, until we got to the big guys, the big stars, and all they did was fight outside the ring because they had to have their moment.
Yeah, for sure. Kevin Nash takes Jarrett over the top rope, eliminates him.
Yep.
And then Scott Hall backdrops Mongo out of the ring. So,
oh my God. Talk about hitting the hardest part of the ring. My Lord.
There it is.
Dude, he flipped him over and it was just like, bang. Like, I was like, and then Mongo just like knows, I'm sure he was in a lot of pain, but he's just like selling to like, come on, like, want to get back in. But I'm like, man, it truly is the hardest part of the ring. I would not want to take that bump.
Those WCW aprons too. I mean, you gotta think those are even harder as well. So
yeah, they did not make the sound that the ring made.
No, it was just pain.
Yep.
So now we get our next or our final round.
Well, Steiner also got eliminated after that as well.
Yeah, everybody's getting thrown out. Who gives a turkey? Oh yeah. Scott Hall throws. No, well, Piper comes out, and then I think Scott Hall eliminates Scott Steiner.
I had Steiner eliminate. Oh, maybe it was all at the same.
They're around the same time. Yeah.
This is where I wanted to say, it's been now said for the Royal Rumble how Titan time, where sure it says 2 minutes, but hey, we have no time. Get his ass out, like whatever it takes, whatever interval you need. So when Piper and Hogan are just doing whatever, the clock's on and all the guys are already in the ring, that confusion I wanted to refer to as Turner time.
I like, because they put the timer back up
after everybody was in.
It's like, what are we counting down to now? You can tell they just had a loop going, and it's like, oh shit, we got to turn this off.
So yeah, because at a point they're like, "Oh, here comes Hogan," but like he wasn't coming out. Like he was next, but he wasn't coming out.
Well, he's Hulk Hogan. He's on Hogan time. That doesn't work for me, brother.
He's still on Titan time.
No, he sure is. He's got to wrangle the worm backstage. He's got to put on his hat. I mean, I was wondering why Buff Bagwell didn't have his classic top hat, which I guess he doesn't have at this point. But Rodman did. He had a very Bagwell-esque hat out here, coming out with Hogan side by side, which, I mean, Bulls are huge at this point. Pop culture.
Is so huge. It's crazy.
I mean, this is probably their biggest celebrity up to this point, no? Who else would they have? To
this point, I mean,
well, they had Shaq at Hogan Havoc?
No, Bash of the Beach 94.
That's right.
They had Shaq. They've had Muhammad Ali. They had Kevin Green, who was in a Super Bowl. Like Mongo, even like, you make fun of whatever, but he was a big football player. Yeah. Like they had in spurts, they would have some of these guys, but Rodman coming in, and then Rodman being there at a point where he missed a practice for the NBA Finals to be on Nitro. Yeah. Make fun of WCW all you want. That is crazy that he would. You know what? I'm going to go do this instead of do my my work there. So.
And he's not just making an appeal. He's not just sitting ringside. He's a big part of the finish here, which we'll get into here in a second. But height of the Bulls, mid playoffs, like it's wild. So Piper pulls Hogan out of the ring under the bottom rope, so he's not eliminated.
Oh yeah.
They brawl in the out, and man, this brawl is just so shitty. Piper and Hogan, like they're good at a lot of things. Brawling is not one of them. They're just hugging each other. Well, guys.
We've seen Starrcade, and we're like, all right, that was a good match. All right. Then you just saw Super Brawl. Oh, okay.
Not too bad, right?
Now we're how thin are we? They fight at Halloween Havoc. They dragged this on from Havoc to Havoc because he debuts at 96. They have their huge cage match at 97.
Yeah, geez, I didn't really think about it when you put it that way. That's wild. I mean, Piper
And in
97.
between, Hogan loses the title in between that too. Like it's so much happens within that whole Piper Hogan saga.
Yeah, it's wild, but yeah, they're still going at it, brawling on the outside. So they get back in the ring at some point. Hogan whips Roddy into the ropes. Dennis Rodman pulls down the top rope and sends Roddy over the top rope, eliminating him. My God. And I missed it the first time. I didn't understand why Roddy went over the top rope because I didn't see Rodman. So I rewound it. And when I was watching it again, because I knew it was coming, you could see all the camera people like getting in position to get the shot of Rodman getting involved.
Had to.
So I don't know. What'd you think of this eliminate? I mean, it was probably the peak moment of the match, I would say, right?
It's a lot better than the punches he throws at Luger later. I'll tell you that.
Oh God, we'll touch on that for sure.
And this is the same guy, Dennis Rodman, who, another fun trivia fact, he wrestled Randy Savage in Randy Savage's final pay-per-view match. Main pay-per-view. I'm not counting TNA like weekly because I think he did one or two of those or like a Turning Point.
He did Turning Point? I think it was Turning Point 2004, but that wasn't their weekly pay-per-view. That was their proper pay-per-view.
It was a true one. His 90s work, his main career to me. Yeah. His final match on pay-per-view was with Dennis Rodman at Road Wild 99. That is, man, it's fun, but it's like, I cannot believe that, like,
I mean, after his knees exploded, what else are you going to do with Mach? So,
yeah. What up, Mach?
So, Rodman eliminates Roddy. Roddy wants to get at him, and him and Hogan still go at it. In the ring, Benoit's eliminated after an outsider's edge.
Oh, did you see how they tried to get him up? It was not happening. He tried to get him up. Then Nash like helped him get up. And then he's even like still like having his head back as he's like in the outsider's edge. And then he gets him back here to where he can lift his head up. Because I'm like, Benoit's going to take another headshot here if they don't protect him.
If only they knew.
Yeah, it was funny. I guess we're kind of there.
Yeah.
When Piper's on the outside after being eliminated, he's going after Hogan, but he's going after Rodman still. Like, well after the fact, I think they were like, it's over, Roddy, like it's done. The security's holding Roddy back. Savage, they're all getting ready to gang up and beat up Luger, and they're plotting. Savage leaves the ring under the rope, goes over and like hits Roddy again to be like, all right, you're done. We beat you up. Get out of here. Quit trying to like continue whatever you're doing. It just seemed like he was going like off script.
He's a loose cannon. I mean,
yeah.
He's unpredictable, this Piper.
So
it's the charm of him, I guess. But yeah, Benoit gets concussed, I'm sure, and gets eliminated.
I'm sure that won't hurt anything in his future.
No, he'll be fine. Rub some dirt in it. I'm not a CTE guy personally. So Luger fights back. So I think it's at this point where it's Luger versus the entire NWO. So it's 1 versus 4. I believe, right?
Yeah, and Tony Schiavone is referencing whenever he had his big moment at World War III, but calls it Wrestle War.
Oh, I didn't even catch that.
So he doesn't remember.
Thing, right?
He doesn't remember that Spring Stampede happened. He forgot that Wrestle War took place from 89 to 92. He has all these blocks of WCW info is just like selective. But I found it funny.
He's been sitting next to Dusty Rhodes all night. His brain's mush at this point, I'm sure.
War Games, Wrestle War, World War III.
Right. A lot of war going on. A lot of battles and brawls and wars. Walls. So Luger just goes on a tear here. He racks Macho Man. He submits, tosses him aside, clotheslines Kevin Nash over the top rope. He's out of here. Puts the rack onto Scott Hall. He submits. Bam, bam, bam. The crowd's eating this up. Luger's fired up. He's wet. He's vascular. And now we just got Luger versus Hogan. The first proper, I would say, one-on-one face-off here. Luger gets Hogan up in the it's fucking finished, dude. Luger gets Hogan.
Well,
up.
what did you expect, man? Main events in WCW,
dude.
It's gonna be exciting, and
this.
you know it's gonna be The best part is after the match. It's never the match,
right?
It's always something else.
Even the lead up to the finish, I'm amped up. I got my shirt off. I'm screaming at the TV.
You're doing this. You think he's gonna rack him? Come on,
rack him. He gets Hogan up on his shoulders, but Macho Man gets in there. Spray paint, not the can of spray paint, sprays paint into the face of Luger and knocks him out. I don't know if it's the fumes. I don't know if it's chloroform in the spray paint can. I don't know what it is. Knocks out Luger with the spray paint spray. Hogan makes the pin.
Yep.
And gets the win. And then team ended. It would make sense if it was like he sprayed it in his face and then Hogan rolled him up. But we know Hogan's not athletic enough to pull it off at this point. So they just did this, or just do the leg drop as he's blinded. I don't know. Do something.
I was kind of stunned he didn't do the leg drop. At least. Not he didn't have to do the big boot, but just finishing it like because look, he wins like this. So he could have been like, well, I might as well get my shit in. I had a leg drop.
Right.
He didn't even do that. Look at Hogan. Good for him.
Don't know, man. But NWO wins. So I don't know. Do we get VK Wall Street versus Prince IK on Nitro as a result?
Yeah, I think you're going to find out.
Oh, I can't wait. I'm on the edge of my seat. But that's not really the story, ultimately, because first they pull Luger into the center of the ring. Old Denny Rods, the real hot rod, according to Hogan, paints NWO on Luger's back, turns him over. Which, okay, 97.
Awful. They're zooming in right on it. That's the problem.
Yeah,
you couldn't have had another angle
from behind, even or something. I don't
know.
They
miss all these great things, and then they catch blatant whiffs.
Well, then Hogan did the same thing after, like just as bad.
They don't know what the hell's going on.
Like you bring the celebrity into wrestling. I feel like the culture of pro wrestling to the outsider is, it's that fake shit, right? So they feel like they can just like not even come close, no contact at all. So I think that was probably his mentality.
Meanwhile, the wrestlers, when having these types of guys in, would much rather them lay it in. Like, just make it look real. We don't care. We do this for a living. And Rodman objectively got better. When we get to Bash at the Beach at 97, I thought he was pretty good for what he was. And like I say, Road Wild 99, one-on-one with Savage, in the match with Malone. Like, he got better, but this was not his finest hour, I would wager.
He's just dipping his toes in. He's just seeing how the water is at this point. He'll be back.
He missed the water.
Yeah. he sure did. But that's not the end of the show. There, Juicy J. I believe you mentioned to me before that this is your favorite ending to a pay-per-view in WCW history. Why don't you run down what happens here afterwards?
It's the most exciting because you think it's over. Team NWO wins, and it's like, God, here we go again. WCW sucks. NWO is going to have more opportunities at championships. They're celebrating. Luger's left laying and spray painting. They're leaving. Here's something good for WCW camera work. They just cut back to a shot of the ring from afar. And then you can kind of start hearing muttering. And then you start seeing people moving around, like looking, and then looking up. It's and the better part is that they don't like, you don't see him come down, like start. They just look straight up, and he's just flying down,
rocketing towards the mat. Yeah,
it is crazy. And then the angle that they have when he gets in, he's facing the camera. But behind him in the background is the NWO looking at what just happened. And it's perfect. You want to talk cinema these days with pro wrestling? WCW had it in spades, Beautiful. Even if their main event sucked. This was electric. I'm getting chills thinking about it. And man, he proved that's right. And then I told Sting, come down from the rafters and it'll be a lot cooler. So I'm not saying Dwayne. I was really part of it.
He's Intercontinental Champion and producing WCW. It's really remarkable.
Oh yeah, remember he was saying that he was watching WCW and being like, oh, I wanted to have a match with this guy and this guy and this guy. It's like, you weren't even barely on Raw.
Oh, Rocky Maivia was giving Vince the what to you, really telling him what to do.
Sting proving he's not Team WCW, but he's definitely not Team NWO. Mm-hmm. Hell has arrived at Uncensored, and Hell brought with him a baseball bat. That is an iconic line from Dusty. The Scorpion Death Drop to everybody, just electric. And then Hogan and Rodman, you know you want to see it. I was like, man, I guess they cut off before they get the interaction. No, you get it. And they split. Hogan gets in. He does the like, come at me. I don't have the bat. Turns his back to him. Just epic stuff. Because he does that with Savage later on in the year. He turns his back to him. He hits him with a couple punches, and that Scorpion Death Drop, and the famous "We're out of time."
Right.
And it's just
tune into Nitro,
again.
man.
I just got chills. It was very well done, and I've told you before, it's probably the most exciting end to a WCW pay-per-view, because even though the heroes lost, somehow the anti-hero saved the day, and now you don't know what's next other than he ain't helping the NWO, and it's hope.
The thing that, I mean, I agree. This was all great. It was electric. I mean, Sting, they've been building to this forever. It was like kind of implied that Sting may have been a member of the NWO. I mean, he had the colors and all that stuff, and there's a few points where he like stood with them, but like kind of on the other side of the ring or whatever.
Crowd also chanted for Sting, by the way. I will say that.
Which was
at some
perfect.
point they were like, "We want Sting," but nowadays the announcers might acknowledge that they did not say anything, and I'm like, good. Let the audience want it, and let the fans at home go, man, they really want Sting. I wonder if he's going to show up or not.
Would it have been better if Sting did that during the match instead of after?
No, because I think the finish, like, I think the right team won. Like, that WCW's team was never going to win. Piper gets a cage match anyway. You know, I know that's kind of hindsight, but I think NWO winning was kind of how it was then. And it's a perfect way to send it off that, like I said, the bad guys win, but they don't win the wall, you know, and you get this guy coming in, and it's hope. It's this guy was a free agent, turned his back. No one believed him at Fall Brawl. He proved everybody wrong at Fall Brawl, and then said, I'm out, stick it. And now he's in the shadows, and now he is willing to help his friends, if not WCW, but at least his friends, and he's anti-NWO. So I think it was done. I would have done it the exact same way, to be honest. Do you think it would have been better for the match? Because that's what I'm saying. If Sting does it, who wins then?
Right. I mean, you could have had Team Piper win, and I think you would have still gotten to the same place. But
true. But then it looks like Sting's aligning with like Piper or the Four Horsemen, and he's definitely not a Four Horseman guy after that, getting kicked out of it so many years ago.
For sure. Yeah. No, you mentioned he proved that he's anti-NWO, not really that he's pro any of these other teams, which I think is what makes sense with him coming down after the match. Plus, you got NWO winning, so they're on a roll, but then you got Sting here to be the resistance. So now you got like a power struggle. You got two guys with momentum like coming at each other. So it kind of sets up the future better with NWO winning and then Sting coming here to, you know, to save the day, I guess. So I think at first when I was watching this, I was like, a little late, Sting. You could have helped another team during the match, but I guess ultimately it makes sense, especially with where they're going and all that stuff. So ultimately, I think it was a great finish. Like I've seen this clip before, but I didn't really know, like, in the context, like, was it in the match? Was it after the match? Like, what did he do exactly? So it was a cool moment. Sting, like I said, that they've been building to for a while, and we're on the road to Starrcade here. I mean, I guess we've been on the road, but
9 more months to that match. That's what makes it so much harder to stomach that the finish and everything, how it happened, is that they had this so well crafted, and it was set up so well, and for it to end how it did, it's just so frustrating.
Mamacita! But
yeah.
The last thing I'll say about this is Dennis Rodman. Just one more thing I got to shit on him for. So when Sting's in the ring and Hogan and Rodman are cowering on the outside, and they begin to circle the ring.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say when he grabs Hogan by the chin, as if he's a bigger star.
That was very weird. Hogan's
It
like
makes it look like
pursing his
Rodman's
lips.
like, yeah, well, it makes it seem like Rodman has less fear than Hogan.
He's the
It's like
leader.
Rodman's the leader of the NWO. Well, he walked out with the belt, so what do I know?
I mean, he's the champ. He's the champ. But no, like, why wouldn't Hogan and Rodman like gang up on Sting? Yeah, Rodman was just lollygagging on the outside, while Hogan, I guess maybe it's because Sting's back was turned, so it's like, oh, Hogan's got it. Maybe, I don't know.
Right, and maybe Rodman does have fear. He ain't going in there with Sting. He
That
saw
is
it,
true.
and as soon as Hogan gets in, he gets dropped. So I don't think Rodman's like, I'm out of here, pal.
Yeah,
I got a game to practice for.
Can't be taking any bumps today, champ.
You think he's gonna take a Scorpion Death Drop?
Mm.
That would have been huge if he took a Death Drop, dude.
Front page,
oh my God,
news type stuff.
Well,
that would have been wild.
You couldn't do that though, because that was the land of kayfabe, and he could not show up to a Bulls practice without the Tony Khan neck brace or something. Like,
yeah,
it would just they would have been like, I guess he's okay. They wouldn't have been able to pull that off.
He would have committed to it. If anybody would have, it'd be Dennis Rodman.
He just no shows on a game.
Well, no, wears a neck brace during the game. Plays.
It still plays.
Yeah, like it doesn't affect him. He just happens to be wearing a neck brace.
It'd be fun if he just didn't play that one game and they just cut to him on the bench and he's got a NWO shirt, but he's got a neck brace on.
A whole season down the drain because fucking Sting gave him a DDT. Would have been magic. But yeah, man, that's uncensored. 1997.
It's uncensored.
It's
Tony.
uncensored. Good stuff. I mean, if you had to throw a grade out of 100 towards this show, what do you think you would throw at it?
100, because I know you've done out of 10 before, but I'll just multiply it if I had to.
There you go. You can do math.
I'm gonna do this based on just the show as a whole, instead of just like match by match and where the results figured in. I think it's a pretty important show in the mythos of WCW, especially in this year. Like I said, with the end of this show sparks the rest of the year. You know, it gets all this hype behind Sting when you haven't seen him. All of a sudden he's there and he's the guy that's going to try to take out Hogan with a bunch of, different stopgaps along the way. With that in mind, even with some of the dud stuff we saw in this thing, I'd give it like a 70, 75, something like that. Because I think the show is so important regardless of what happened. I think the Dusty commentary is fun and the match is exciting at the end, and you got a couple of strong matches to open the show. And how you close it, I think that's been the thing, is WWE had a terrible undercard, unreal main event, send you home happy because last thing you saw was amazing. WCW would normally had great undercards, rough main events. Very seldomly they had something that sent home the fans happy. This was kind of a hodgepodge of a mid card, and then the main event was like whatever, and then the final 5 minutes was unbelievable. So people were like just gassed up. So I think it really lends itself to a higher grade because of that alone.
I always, when I grade shows like that, it's always like, how did I feel watching it? Like, what was my experience like watching it? And I would, 70, 75 is good. Like, there could have been some stronger stuff in the middle, but good bookends to the show. So ultimately, it's a plus in my book. It's a thumbs up.
I was like amped up, like leading up to the main event, even knowing what's happening, of course. But if you don't know what's going to happen, it's pretty exciting. The NWO could go away for a while, and like the buildup of that's how some people would call it a negative of WCW, but not just the greatest night of the history of this great sport, but it'd be any of these matches happening, and all they're talking about is the main event. This didn't really have that, so I'm glad they kind of hinted at it by showing Rick Steiner and stuff, but. It wasn't just like beat you over the head. This is important and everything else isn't. Like, it was a nice balance to that.
I agree. Main event might have been better with John Tenta in it, but I digress. Why couldn't he be the fourth guy? What was he doing?
I wouldn't have minded. He's a hoss. He's a good wrestler. It just, as John Tenta, it wouldn't have seemed as imposing.
He's not a fish. He's a man.
He's a man. I bring back Avalanche.
Run it back.
Yeah, why not?
Make him a different match. Make him a mudslide or something. I don't know.
That is a OSW review joke. Have you ever watched those guys?
No.
Yeah, they review Starrcade 94, and they make note of like Avalanche does like a slam or something strong to Sting, and then he like does the double bicep to the camera. It's so funny. And I think they were referencing what else he could have been called, and they said mudslide was one of them.
I love it. Well, I'll take a gander at that, but the only podcast I really listen to is the Juice Box Wrestling Podcast. Wow. Appreciate you coming on once again, Juice. Always a pleasure talking 2.5 hours about Uncensored. Always a pleasure having you. I appreciate you watching the show, coming on, talking about it. Where can everybody find you, listen to you, taste you, and stick their fingers in your belly button?
Well, they can just stick a straw in the juice box every single Friday, unless I say otherwise. But no matter what, we will have an episode every single week of new content, no matter what it is. We don't do best ofs. We don't have that much content for that yet. But we've done watch-alongs. We do the Sip series, which now I could finally bring that up. We just did the Sip series with you, the Apron Bump, and it's going to air this week as well. I believe I scheduled it to air tomorrow. November 21st. Nice. So that would be the video version of that. The audio version will come out on Friday, but Spotify, Apple Podcasts via iTunes, juicysteen.podbean.com, anywhere else really, Amazon Music, I think as well. And just follow me on Twitter at JuicySteen. Talking literally, if you talk about WCW to me, you might never not talk to me. So
you will talk about anything. Worldwide, pro, hard work, Bobby Walker, everything. Yeah, it's your passion.
It truly is. I mean, I'm wearing a WCW shirt. I pride myself on being a guy that tries to preserve the good, bad, and objectively terrible that is WCW, one way or the other. So if no one else will do it, I will.
Yeah. Well, somebody's got to. Somebody's got to keep the name alive.
Someone has to, for sure.
Well, that's trying to think of a juice pun to take us home. Juice. I could just make a sipping noise.
How about this? Was Uncensored 97 worth the squeeze?
Once again, thank you to the Juice for joining me on this journey throughout WCW. Always a good time with Juice. Go check out the Juice Box Podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. Follow him on all the social medias. Follow me. Like, review, rate, subscribe, thumbs up, thumbs in my belly button. Hey, you know what we need to do is hit that goddamn jingle, Bartholomew.
WCW, ECW, WWF, who's the hardest promotion? Eric or Vince or Paulie? I think we can agree, though. Heck, Myers is the shit.
Alrighty then. The hardest promotion battle of 1997 continues. Now, if you're watching on YouTube, I am sharing my screen so you can walk through this visually as I go through this. But if you're listening in audio land, I will walk you through it as well. Basically, what I have up here is the scoreboard, which as of now, the score is ECW with 40, WCW with 24, WWF with -6. But a lot can change over the course of just a show sometimes, and we'll see if anything changes here. We have points associated to things. Basically, we're looking at the best, the worst. Of course, if you are in the best category, you get positive points. If you're in the worst category, you get negative points. So best matches, best and worst matches, best and worst wrestlers, character storylines, segments, all of that, in ring, out of ring. We'll get into all of this individually. But the first thing we got to do is grade this show, because that'll factor into the score as well. So we go here and we are grading from a scale of 0 to 100. So let's see. WCW Uncensored 1997. What are we thinking, gang? What are we thinking? So I like to look at the other scores just to provide like a consistent baseline. So Sold Out got a 52, which was the last WCW pay-per-view. And this was much better than Sold Out. So 52 is the floor. The best right now is Super Brawl. Actually, no, that was the last pay-per-view. I'm sorry. The last pay-per-view was WCW Super Brawl, which is an 81. So 52 for Sold Out, 81 for Super Brawl. The question is this show, Uncensored, better or worse than Super Brawl? I want to say better. Let me refresh my memory on Super Brawl. Just going to pull up the card here just to make sure I'm not talking out of school here, because we want to make sure that we have this right. You know what I'm saying? So Super Brawl, we had that weird lucha match. We had Dean versus Six, which was good. We had another Prince Ikea versus Rey Mysterio match. DDP, Buff Bagwell, Jericho, Eddie, Triangle Tag, Jarrett Mongo, Benoit, Sullivan, Outsiders, Luger Giant, Hulk Hogan, Roddy Piper. So another pretty good show. Hence why it currently is the highest rated pay-per-view of the year so far in terms of this scale. So I don't know if it's better or worse Uncensored. My gut says a hair worse than Super Brawl. Not much, but I don't think it's quite as good as Super Brawl was. I think just overall, I think this show had more duds than Super Brawl. It might have had higher highs, but also lower lows, if that makes any sense. I'm going to say 78. Let me put that in my mouth and chew on it and see how I feel about it. A 78 for Uncensored, 81 for Super Brawl. It's also a little better than ECW Crossing the Line, much better than any WWF show so far, which I think is accurate. I'm going to say 77. No, 78. 78 feels better. All right. We're going to throw a 78 at this one, which is pretty good. Pretty good. So we refresh this and we look at the overall averages. So WCW is closer to ECW now in terms of average grade, but just a share under. WCW has an average grade of 70.33. ECW has an average grade of 71. So that sold out show from WCW is really hurting them at this point. But ECW has the highest average pay-per-view, or in their case, like Super Show, grade. So we go back to the overall scoreboard. ECW still maintains this 15 points. Next category, best TV. Just in general, best TV. We're tracking WCW as the best right now. It's not WWF, not yet. Post-Mania could be, but not yet. So it's really between WCW and ECW. I don't think enough has changed since we last looked at this to change anything. So I think WCW Nitro is pretty good. It's a lot of squash matches, but they have a lot of good threads kind of tying everything together. I think it's just a pleasant show to watch. Whereas ECW is also very good. The promos are great, but ultimately it's just a lot of highlights from previous shows, which, you know, it's some good stuff. But I think WCW still has this. So they maintain those 15 points. WCW does. Best in ring. Just in general, the best in ring product. We are currently tracking ECW as the best. So this is something I can see WCW overtaking later in the year. Man, they do have a lot of good stuff, though. WCW does. ECW has, you know, they got the Eliminators, RVD, Sabu, Taz. I think ECW is stronger, like, maybe just like overall, like more well-rounded, more well-rounded than WCW. I'm gonna say yeah. I'm gonna leave it at ECW for now, so they maintain those 10 points. Best out of ring. Best out of ring. So just all the storylines, the characters, the promos, what have you. ECW currently has this. Again, like we're kicking off some stuff, like the Mortis and Glacier stuff. We're kicking off the DDP Macho Man stuff. I think ECW just got a lot of good stories going right now. Taz, Sabu, the origins of the Dudleys. The promos are great. ECW's got by far the best promos. I don't know. It's close. It's close. WWF's got some good stuff coming after Mania. So, like, Before Mania, there's not a lot of good, but I think after Mania is when they really start kicking into gear. So I think they'll enter the conversation at that point. I think for now we're going to leave it as ECW. We're going to leave it as ECW, the best out of ring. So they maintain those 10 points. So no change to the scoreboard yet. Now let's move on to the best. So this section is labeled the best. Best match of the year so far. We're tracking ECW CyberSlam 1997, Eliminators versus the team of RVD and Sabu. Let me look through my notes just to make sure that I'm not forgetting anything. Uncensored 97. Let's go to cage match here. Pulling up the card. I don't think anything on this show was better than Eliminators RVD Sabu. Eddie Dean was very good. Psychosis and Ultimo Dragon was pretty good. Main event was okay. It was just a lot of brawling, but it was fun. It was fun brawling. I'll tell you what, like the closing angle of Uncensored, it was after the match was over. Maybe if that was during the match, I might throw the main event in here as best match of the year so far. Yeah. We're going to keep it as Eliminators and RVD Sabu. Just because it was so innovative for the time, man. Like, people weren't doing ladder matches like that back in these days. It was just a fun match to watch. So we're going to keep it as this. ECW maintains those 5 points. Wrestler of the year so far. Best wrestler of the year. We're tracking DDP as the best. Now, he didn't have a match on this show. So the question is, does anybody on this show that did wrestle, would they overtake him? You can throw Rey Mysterio's in the conversation, but he had a stinker on this one, so I wouldn't say he warrants taking the spot. Ultimo Dragon, maybe you can throw in the conversation. Eddie and Dean both are definitely in the conversation, but I think DDP and the strength of his character puts him above those guys at this moment in time. So I think DDP maintains this. So WCW maintains best wrestler of the year. So they maintain those 5 points. Best character / storyline. We're tracking Sting. I mean, with how this show ended, I don't see any reason to take him off. It was good shit, great angle. So yeah, Sting maintains this. So WCW keeps those 5 points. Best segment of the year. Diamond Cutter to Scott Hall. So the question is Sting's post-match deal better than that? Because the Diamond Cutter to Scott Hall launched DDP to a point where he's wrestler of the year right now. And a lot of it is based on that segment. Sting, like, the segment was great. I guess it's a major pivot point in the NWO story, so that there is significance to it as well. Man, that's tough. I mean, it's going to be WCW either way for now. I'm going to leave it, I think. That's my gut. The Diamond Cutter to Scott Hall. Because these are both angles where the NWO is getting their comeuppance. Or getting comeuppance, like getting cummed on. I don't know. I think I'm gonna leave the Diamond Cutter to Scott Hall there, just because I think it was there was more of a shock factor, and just what that resulted in. I think took DDP from a fairly low point. It's not a low point, but kind of in the middle to the moon. Whereas Sting's deal, it furthered the NWO storyline, I guess. God damn, I don't know. You can really go either way. It's WCW either way, so it doesn't matter too much. We're gonna leave it DDP. So WCW keeps those 5 points, and nothing. I'm I don't think anything on TV from the other companies would have superseded either of those anyways. So, unless I'm forgetting anything. You got the Bret Hart promo. But technically, I don't think that happened yet as of this date. I think that'll be something we touch on in the next episode. So, more to follow on that. Now we move on to the worst section. So the worst match. We are currently tracking the Royal Rumble Lucha 6-man match as the worst. Buff Bagwell, Scotty Riggs was pretty bad. You know what? We're going to do it. We're going to do it. Buff Bagwell. Buff versus Riggs. Strap. Match. Now, spoiler alert. I have already watched and recorded the episode for WrestleMania 13. I have a feeling something's going to overtake this. So don't look too much into this for now. But for now, WCW gets -3 points for that. So they take that from WWF. So the WWF moves up 3 points. WCW moves down 3 points. Worst wrestler of the year, Crush. We're tracking Crush from the Nation of Domination as the worst wrestler of the year. Again, just looking at the card here, you can throw Prince Ikea. He hasn't been super good, but not as bad as Crush. Scotty Riggs, maybe. No. Buff, no. I think Crush holds on to this one. Hogan? No. Hogan's definitely in the conversation, but I think his character is too strong to throw him as the worst of the year. So WWF maintains those -3 points. Worst character storyline. We're tracking the Nick Patrick, Randy Anderson deal. Now that, from my understanding, that's pretty much done at this point. So while it was bad, it didn't really have much of a lasting impression. So I don't think it had that much of a negative effect on the company. I can't offhand think of anything worse, though, yet. Worst character storyline. Especially from this show, nothing terrible, I don't think. Rodman, maybe? No. Anything from any other company? Some people might not like the Nation Ahmed storyline, but again, we'll probably touch more on that in the next episode. Yeah, I don't think anything's worse than Nick Patrick and Randy Anderson. The refs, Randy Anderson getting fired and all that shit. So that was pretty bad. So WCW maintains those -3 points. Worst segment of the year, Miss NWO. Again, nothing is overtaking this in my eyes. So that, yeah, WCW holds on to that -3 points from Sold Out 97. So with that, very little change, but a little change nonetheless. ECW still with 40 points in the lead, and WCW in second with 21 points. WWF with -3 points. So as we approach the end of quarter one, the end or the beginning, I don't know. ECW is in the lead as of this moment, but we got WrestleMania coming up. We got a lot of stuff from the WWF to close out this year that'll be much better than what we've seen so far. The NWO storyline is still cooking. We got a lot of character shifts to come up throughout the year from all companies, really. So still anybody's game, but ECW is firmly in the lead as of now. So that is where we stand. And with that, I think that's about all Daddy has for you guys today. If you've made it this far, God bless you. I love you. You're a true bumper. A true bumper. And now I'm throwing my fist at the camera and, in your ass or whatever. So, yeah. That's all. I was thinking of fisting. I'm thinking of merch. I could put like a fist on a t-shirt, bumper, bump me, bumper cars. There's something there. We'll workshop it. But All right, get the hell out of here. Appreciate you guys listening, watching, all that stuff. Like, rate, review, slap me on the chest, spit in my mouth, do all of those things. And with that, I bid you adieu. Mwah. Mwah. I'm hard.
Yeah. It's the hardest. Talk around and disregard it. Strip you off the ground, show you what heart is. Standing strong and proud, nothing can knock it. Let's get it started. It's the hardest. Talk around and disregard it. Strip you off the ground, show you what heart is. Standing strong and proud, nothing can knock it. Let's get it started.